Welcome to the Alternate Corner, where real criminal trials take center stage and the pursuit of justice is our guiding principle. Here, we believe that every defendant is innocent unless proven guilty, and we invite you to experience the legal process as it unfolds fairly, thoroughly, and objectively. Join us as we shed light on the courtroom, uphold the presumption of innocence, and seek the truth behind every case. Subscribe to stay informed, engaged, and empowered in the world of justice.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are we, everybody? Straight away, Crazy Busy Ma'am, how are you? Nice to see you, my darling. Let's go the Pats. The Pats, they're at the Super Bowl. My first year as a Pats fan. We're in the Super Bowl, baby. This is easy, isn't it? I can't believe it. Yeah, I've been up all night, watched the playoffs. I'm absolutely over the moon that the Pats have made the Super Bowl. So the 8th of February. Cannot wait. Cannot wait. San Francisco. It's been played in San Francisco. I believe that the Patriots could be in Stanford training. They're using their facilities because no one wants to use the San Francisco 49ers facilities because you're going to get injured if you do. But yeah. We got a San Francisco fan right here, Sarah P. Hello, my darling. How are you? Do me a favor, everybody. Please hit the like button on the way in. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. There you go. The best ways to support me. I'll pin that. I'll talk about that later. Morning to you, Sarah. How are you, my darling? Sarah P. No. Lady Di, I just ice skated my way in here. Wow, is it that bad? I've just seen some pictures of snow. 2 feet of snow. Wow. I mean, we'd be locked in for a week if that was a snow with us. Unbelievable. So fun. I know. I'm nervous already, though. Crazy Busy Ma'am. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. Already nervous. Seattle Seahawks are the favourites, so I don't blame them because they were outstanding yesterday. Morning, Hot Mama. She's here. Hot Mama's here. Josie, how are you, my darling? Nice to see you. Hello, Christine. How are you, Fortunato? Hello, Christine. How are you, my darling? Nice to see you. This way up. All right, Geeta. How are you, fella? Hope you're doing well. Up there. We got nice weather over here, so we're all right. Luby Lou, where are you? Hello to you. Hello, my darling. Hello, and good evening and good night to you, Sheila. I am very well, my darling. Nice to see your face. Nice to see you as well. Hope everything's well there in sunny. Sunny Australia, because you guys have got it hot now, cold in our summer. So hello to you, my darling. Nice to see you as always, my darling. Christine says we had lots of snow in New Jersey. Whoa. Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures. I don't know how you look at the game last night. Patriots, Seahawks, Patriots, Denver. Like first 3 quarters were okay, and then all of a sudden snow came down, and I was like, oh my days. Never seen anything like it. So it's madness out there, people. Madness, I tell thee. But there you go. What can we do? I got my Patriots hat on. Go on Marshfield. badge on. So we are repping the Pats today. I got my Boston Starbucks mug as well. So today's going to be it's not going to be a long stream today. It's going to be a short stream today because I just want to touch base with everyone. I've not been streaming since, well, technically Thursday morning, Wednesday night, Thursday morning. It was a late one after Adrian Gonzalez got a not guilty verdict, which is happy days. So got that. So I'm happy with that. So I've not been on since then. I've just been chilling, Dylan, all that malarkey. And I want to do some short streams up until we do our next trial. And that's what we'll talk about, some of the coverage we'll be doing in the future. I also will play today the interview that Runkle did with Nico, Jason, and Gary, the attorneys for Adrian Gonzalez. So Runkle, I'm sure you all know Runkle is anyway, but we'll put a link in a second to Runkle the Bailey, his YouTube channel. He's one of those attorneys. I mean, I'm sure you all know him anyway, but he's one of those attorneys that I think universally respected. So everyone wants to do an interview with him. He's probably the attorney. Him and Lawyer No are probably the two attorneys everyone goes to for the first interviews. And these attorneys decided to go to a Runkle and have their first proper interview. I've not watched it. It's an hour and 40 or odd minutes. I purposely didn't watch it because I wanted to watch it live until an hour and 40 minutes, as I say. So that'll be a chunk of today's stream watching that. So shout out to Runkle for that interview. I hope it's good. I'm sure it will be good. There are a few things going on. Obviously, Aaron Spencer, for those that don't know, in Arkansas, he is the father that his daughter was raped by a guy who then kidnapped her, and the father, Aaron Spencer, unalived him, rightly so, in my opinion. His trial has been pushed back because the judge has been recused, as in she was a bitch anyway, so she's gone, which is good, but I don't know when the trial's going to be. I really don't know. Thank you, Sarah P. As always, Sarah P is here. There you go. I'm sure you're all subscribed to Runkle anyway, just in case you're not. He's a great attorney, great commentator as well, and he's up there as one of the most well-respected, I think, attorneys on LawTube. So that one's been pushed out. So I don't know. It might be next week. There's going to be special judge placed for Aaron Spencer, but I don't really know when it's going to happen. I do know if you want more coverage on this. I've done a little bit on this case, but not much. If you do want more coverage, I know Hot Mama's here, Josie's here. She's a big advocate for Defense Diaries. They've been doing a lot on this case, so they are definitely people for you to go and watch. They've got a lot of coverage on Aaron Spencer. So, I vouch for them because my Hot Mama, Josie, she vouches for them. I know they're very good. So they are people that are covering this as well. So I don't really know when that's going to happen. It might be next week, but it might not be for a few months. I have no idea when that's happening. There's another trial happening tomorrow, but I don't know if it's going to be streamed. The one tomorrow. Hello, Katie. How are you, my darling? Nice to see you. The one tomorrow is the Dale Warner trial. Dale Warner. Where is it from? Is it Michigan? I think it's Michigan, but I don't know if it's going to be televised or not. Dale Warner is the guy that allegedly unalived his wife and hid her body in like a big industrial block somewhere. So he's a farmer, and he was arrested, but they didn't have the body. But then 2 months after he was arrested or something, they found the remains of Dee Warner, who was the wife that was killed. So I missed everything. I was hammering some ice away since my other half is on crutches and he doesn't break his there you go. For once, you're working, looking after him. Makes a change, Lady Di, doesn't it? Guilty Dave Hamburger's in the house. How you doing, Dave? Let's get those pats, eh? So D Warner one, the Dale Warner one, guilty. Yeah, I knew you would be guilty straight away on that one. I mean, it doesn't look good for him. I will be honest with you. So we must watch the London Thomas murder trial. They have a preliminary hearing and it's very sad. She was found about 30 minutes from where I live. Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that one before. London Thomas. Let me look at that. They may not show it. See, the problem with a lot of these cases is they don't show them, you know. London Thomas. Oh, yes. I've seen that. I have seen it. Michigan teen murdered. Yes. I've not looked into it at all, but I did see there was a preliminary hearing last week, I believe. Let's have a look to see, is there a trial date for it? London Thomas trial date. The trial date for suspects of the London Thomas murder case has been set following a preliminary hearing. Oh, so the date has been set, but they've not announced it or something. New charges have been filed as well. Okay. Hippie chick, Lady Di, Spacey Stacy, walking those streets all night. You go, ladies, come and see what's going on now. Let's go, girls. Hello, Spacey Stacy, stranger, how are you? I've not seen you for ages, it feels like. Hope you're doing well, my darling. Hope your holiday was good as well. Okay, this is it, yeah. Why have they not announced the dates then? The dates have been set for the trial, but they've not announced it, it says. They've not made it public. That sucks. Because we don't, you know, how long have we got to wait for it? Yeah, there's more charges to it as well. So, okay. Sounds like an interesting one. It's just I don't know when it's going to be and it might clash with something. So I can't promise it, KD, until I know for sure when it's going to be and see if it works around some of the other trials. But I can definitely start look at it and cover it a little bit of it as well in the lead up to it. Snow day. So snow day everywhere in America. What the hell's going on? I thought you guys could handle snow. I thought in America everyone kept bragging. Dave keeps bragging. Snow, nothing. But you guys are having schools shut down, snow days. I remember when we had a school shut down for a day, everyone mocked me and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're having a day. School's been shut. I can't believe it. Wouldn't happen in America." Lies. Look at you all. Lies. Yeah, but it's been it's the date's been set though, Katie. That's the annoying thing. It's been set, but they're just not telling us. Because it says, hang on, let me read it. So they're now facing first degree. So now facing first degree murder instead of second degree murder. Two of them, Jalen and his mother Charla, and added unlawful imprisonment and evidence tampering to the charges. Saskia, did you? Okay, no. Okay, first degree murder, that's good enough for me, Martha said. It's now moving forward with enhanced charges. There's more charges to the case, but there's no date, as in the date's been set, but it's not public. No snow in Oregon. Tough in Oregon, you see. You're tough in Oregon. Okay, well that fucked us over a little bit. So anyway, there's. I'm not saying I'm going to cover the Dale Warner trial. It's just more that is coming up starting tomorrow. So there's that, and there'll be other stuff. I'm trying to do these kind of shows as well in between, rather than jumping from one trial to the other. I don't want to cover everything. I want to do more coverage on the lead up to trials, if that makes sense. So there'll be some days I won't stream, or if I do stream, it'd be like for 2-3 hours. Like today's only going to be like a 2-3 hour stream. I'm not going to stream for long today. So it's nice to have that kind of balance. I mean, chat's just chatting about something. I have no idea what the hell the chat's. You talk about snow. Dave is sucking. Dave sucks. We know Dave sucks. Gotcha, so it already happened. I have no idea what you're on about. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, so there's that. I don't know now. What the hell else I was going to say? I don't remember what I was going to say. But one of the things I was going to say was I will try and, once we know Aaron Spencer, I will try and stream that one because I know there's a lot of interest. But I can't promise. It depends on what else is going on. I'm not going to just wait around for that one. We'll see what else is going to be around. There's a few stuff ongoing. There's a few hearings coming up, I believe, for Courtney Clenny and a few others. I know there's the Ohio dentist and his wife that got murdered and the ex-husband's been arrested. I know that's starting to pick up traction. I believe Diane Minaj is representing him. So, you know, I know a lot of people like her. So that could be an option to watch a little bit of that hearings. Hello, Andrielle. Hello, my darling. How are you? Also, try not to do the same things as every other creator because, you know, when you go live and you see who's covering cases, the same people covering all the cases. So I'm trying to cover things a little bit different. I don't want to cover everything. So many streamers are covering the same trials. So we'll see on that one what happens. I'm ready to move to Tennessee due to our new okay. Lady Di is moving to Tennessee. There you go. Breaking news. Heard it here first. I'm sure that her husband does not know that happened. We had also Sharon Moore, Michigan head coach. He was in court on Friday, I believe Thursday or Friday, one of the two. I watched it. His case is now being pushed forward. I'm not sure what they're gonna. He tried to unalive himself and allegedly maybe tried to attack his ex-girlfriend, who he's on an affair with, who was also his assistant in his role as Michigan Wolverines head coach. So there's that. So there's a lot of little mini trials going on everything. Trying to think where else there is. We got Alex Murdoch. His appeal is coming up. We got Zachary Anderson. His appeal is coming up. I believe Zacharias and Alex is in February, I believe. So I'm not 100% sure. Hot Mama's going to tell me when the Zachariah Anderson one is. So I want to do that one. I will definitely be covering that hearing if it's televised, which I'm sure it will be. The Alex Murdoch one is one I want to try and cover as well. Because that was a trial that made me, you know, come on to YouTube. Because if McCarthy went to Pittsburgh, I was shocked. Not shocked, but I was shocked. So Alex Murdoch was a case I covered, it was a case I covered on Twitter. It was one of the first ones that I really followed. So I mean, I've gone to war with lots of people. It's funny because a lot of people who were pro Alex Murdoch being guilty. So people, I would say 95% of people on Twitter were like, he's guilty before one ounce of evidence was given in. A lot of those same people Will the same people go with Karen's innocent until proven guilty? It's like it's double standards a lot of it type of thing. So that I found that quite interesting. People are very swayed by the media. I've noticed. So and people are very swayed by Dateline and Core TV and stuff. Bad Dad's a Hawaii fella. Nice to see you, buddy. Dave, stop it, Dave. Dave trying to wind up people in the chat. So yeah, I try and keep it consistent here. I do think that there's a lot of people that are possibly two-faced about their beliefs. They believe what they see in the media and then base their opinions on that. I do try and keep it solid here by saying that everyone is innocent unless proven guilty. I try and keep that standard if I can. Obviously, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we know some people are guilty. Like Sarah Boone is always example I use. Sarah Boone, we know she was guilty, but we didn't know at what level she was guilty at because we'd seen the video. So she's going in as guilty, but she still deserved a fair trial because she had different levels of guilt, like murder 1, murder 2, manslaughter, and all that. So that's why I didn't cover it, because I didn't feel that any people couldn't be objective in that trial. So I didn't bother covering it. Mainly, I still believe in the defendant is always innocent unless proven guilty. I'm happy to always see when a defendant is, if they've been proved guilty, happy days. But if you look at the trial we just covered, the Adrian Gonzalez, I would say most people thought he was guilty based on media coming into the trial. And then when they watched the trial, they changed their minds because there's so much evidence that showed that, so many other people at fault as well, that it shouldn't be pinned on one person. So yeah, I try and keep that standard here. That's where I'm at with it anyway. So I'm very selective in my trials when I know going in that people always think someone's guilty. Now, as it turns out, I believe Alex Murdaugh is guilty of murder, but I just don't believe that the state proved their case. And also, if you watch that case, there was a lot of shady business by SLED, who are basically the prosecution and the investigators. So SLED is the part of the investigating team. I don't remember what SLED stands for, but if you watch the trial, there was so much shoddy business. They did such a bad investigation, really shoddy, really bad investigation. But people brush that over and just go, we don't care because the guy is guilty, so we don't care. That it doesn't rest well with me either. We should hold our police departments. We should hold our prosecutors and our government, whatever country you're in, to a higher standard. So I don't know. I'm preaching, but I don't know. I do a lot of reflection sometimes, and I do get disappointed to see people be a little bit two-faced and pick and choose when it's correct or not for a defendant to be innocent unless proven guilty. So I do see a lot of that, and I struggle with that. I do really struggle with that. Dave stoned. What's wrong? I swear in the chat I could see people chatting to you, but I couldn't see you, and I wouldn't comment to you, but you wouldn't see it. YouTube is a bit of a pain in the ass. YouTube is as much of a pain in the ass as what Sarah P is a pain in the ass, if I'm being honest with you. So anyway, I'm still on my perch. I'm still preaching. So I'm going to be very selective about some of the things I'm covering. I want to stay in our lane. I want to, go a different direction in some ways with our trials. I think we got a good little community going, just being able to talk things through sensibly. I don't know. I'm just not. There's some cases I'm just not enjoying at the minute and seeing and stuff with all the drama and things like that. So I'm going to veer away from a lot of stuff. I'm going to concentrate on things where we can make a difference. So Dave is limp. He's stoned and he's limp. Okay, Dave. Right. So I don't think we're going to be covering the trial tomorrow because You know, I don't think people can be objective to it, which is fair. That's fine. But I am keeping an eye out for stuff for other streams, other trials. All right, hang on. We don't know, Kitty, because we don't know what's going to be streamed or not. That's the problem. We don't know what's going to be streamed or not. That they don't tell you in advance. You see, so I've been burnt a few times where I'm covering a case. I'm really like focusing on it and doing the research, and then they don't show it. So then look at Aaron Spencer. Up until Friday or whatever it wasn't going to be shown on TV, and even now it's still not guaranteed to be shown on TV. So that's sometimes the issue we have, that they don't show stuff on TV on stream. So that's a big issue. So that's why sometimes we have to jump on stuff. Hang on. Let me just look at here. Because some of the stuff coming up, I have no but I believe Kate Peter is in today. In quarter, I have zero interest in covering that. The Dale Warner one's starting tomorrow. We got Sarah Grace Patrick. She's got a hearing maybe today or Wednesday. I'm not sure. Corey Richins, jury selection. That one's happening. Yeah. You've got Courtney Clenny beginning of February for an April start. So that's probably one we will cover, Courtney Clenny. There is Sarah Grace Patrick. Okay, Sarah Grace Patrick. Hang on. I need to just hang on. Let me just go here. Where's this gone? Let me go here. Hang on. I'm just trying to do something here very quickly. Okay, that there. Find that there. So yes, Sarah Grace Patrick. That's interesting, but I don't think it's happening until August, is it? I believe it's August. No, I can't find that there. Okay, that's fine. Get out of that one. That's fine. Yeah, that's the young girl. That's a TikTok girl. So we'll do a little bit more coverage of that. But again, it's one of those that everyone's covering as well. So it's really hard to find trials that no one's covering. Do you know what I mean? That's why I might do Dale Warner, because I'm not sure, because people are doing the Banfield one, the one in New Jersey, and stuff like that. And some aren't doing any because they're waiting for Aaron Spencer. So I might do it. Depends how I feel tomorrow, I suppose. So that is an option on that one. You've got early February, some coming up. Again, Courtney Clenny's coming up. You've got the Kelsey Fitzsimmons trial coming up. I'm not sure what date the trial is, but again, I probably won't cover that one. You've got Karen Reid hearings coming up. Might be shocking news, but I'm not covering Karen Reid anymore. I won't be covering any of those hearings. I have literally zero desire to cover them. There's so many people that are going to be covering them, so you're going to be safe. But I'm veering away from all that. I have no desire to cover those trials. But I'm safe in the knowledge that those of you who want to watch it, there's probably going to be 100 streams that you can go and watch it on. I do reserve the right, obviously change my mind, but at the minute I've no desire to do so. There's other hearings. We got Turtle Boy. He's going to be in court. We will cover Turtle Boy's, not necessarily his hearings, because they all get discontinued all the fucking time. So we might watch some of those on replay just because they get discontinued all the time. And we'll probably cover the trial. His trial scheduled for 1st of December, so far out. But he is. I don't care what you think about the guy. He doesn't deserve to be facing prison time, in my opinion. So, like Corey Richards is one. I don't know the official date for that one, but that's going to be played like an hour on delay as well. So I'm not sure with that one whether, again, that's another one that's been blown up in the media, and I don't think she's ever going to get a fair trial. So I don't know if I'll cover that or not. But there will be other ones that come up sparingly as well. But until I know for sure, it's going to be tough to know what to cover. But yeah, the breaking news today is that in some cases that you might expect me to cover hearings, I will not be covering. So as I say, there's plenty of streamers out there that you can go and watch them with. And that's not because I got any hate for anything. It's just more of I just can't be asked. So Wicked Sight, hello, my darling. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope the snow is doing well for you over there in Boston. Let me see when one of these. Bear with me. No, I didn't see. I got it here. I'm going to play it now, Andrea. I'm going to play it in a second now. I didn't watch it purposefully because I wanted to play it today for people. Right. I don't have a date for Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Again, that's not one I will be covering. But for those of you who want to watch it, I don't have a date for you guys. Josie, I watched it. It was good. Yeah, I really want to watch it, but I was like, I don't want to watch it twice. So that's why. Yeah, that's all good. I would have watched it, but I didn't want to watch it twice. So, so Kelsey Fitzsimmons is tentatively scheduled for March 23rd for those that want to watch it. So there you go. There's that one. I will be doing more. This is what I want to do this later on after this trial stream finishes. I want to go and do a little bit more research of potential trials that will come up in the next few weeks. As I say, Aaron Spencer's up in the air, so I have no idea. I wanted to cover Alex Murdoch. I want to cover Zachary Anderson, but I need to shore up those dates as well. We've got the one starting tomorrow, but whether it's going to be streamed or not, I don't know. About Dale Warner killing his wife. So yeah, there's a few. I'm up in the air on some stuff. But I also wanted to let you know that I won't be covering the hearings for Karen and stuff like that, and Kelsey Fitzsimmons and stuff, rather than people start going, why are you not covering this? I'm not covering it. There's enough people that want to cover it. That will be covering all those stuff. So I'm trying to move slightly differently on some of these things. But as I say, there's plenty of people that will be covering them. Right. I'm going to look some stuff up. Whilst I do that, I'm going to play you the Runkle interview to see what you think. I'm playing at 1.25 speed. 1.25 speed. So, just so you know what I mean, no more drama streams. That's a big reason why I'm moving away from everything. I've got no desire to get involved or to cover those kind of stuff. So, I am looking to cover other stuff. Now, I will say as well, by doing so, I understand fully and appreciate fully that we will lose a lot of people, but I'm also okay with that. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to do drama and I don't want to do certain trials. So anymore. It's not what I came into this world for, and I'd rather move on quietly and do our own thing. So, right. So this is. Oh shit! I haven't got my thing up. Hang on. Sorry, I haven't put my ladies up. There they are, the mods at the bottom. And then I need to put my little thing up as well. There you go, there's that. Okay, so there you go. We'll watch this now and see what we think. Again, shout out to Runkle. I'm sure you're all subscribed to him anyway, but he just seems to get all these guests. And I love that for him. 15 inches of snow, more on the way later. Shit. Hello, hippie chick. How are you, my darling? Stacey was here. Lady Di was here as well. Right. Let's play this for you guys. It should be 1.25.
I am so honored to be able to chat with you and to have you on the show, because I've been watching your work and I am a huge fan. You guys conducted one of the most difficult trials I have seen ever, and you did so with with grace and acumen, in a way that I keep saying I want to run a course at some point for young lawyers that would be trial advocacy by watching famous trials, and to show them that and say, this is how it's done.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is also the trial I want to show to everybody who comes up to me at a party and it's like, defense lawyers are, all of the words. Just be like, watch this trial, see how they conducted it. Tell me if you think that they're bad people after that, because I was amazed. So
Thank you.
So I'll let you guys introduce yourself, because I will probably do a bad job of it.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm Nico LaHood. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. Been practicing law for, coming up on 24 years. I was honored and humbled to serve Bexar County, which is the county that San Antonio resides in, as the district attorney. And Jason and I go back almost 11 years now. He can tell some of the story on that. And I'll let Jason introduce himself. I'm a husband. I'm a daddy. I have 4 children. I'm married to a woman. My wife. We've been married 20 years in July. And so,
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm honored to practice law with this dude.
Yeah, so I'm Jason Goss. So Nico and I have been together about 11 years. I came to him. When he was the DA. I was actually a prosecutor in a different area of Texas, and he called me because he was one of my mock trial professors when I was in law school. So he called me and said, "Hey, I got elected over here, and I need good people. Can you come over here and do that?" And so I did that with him for 4 years. And then when we got out of that office, we started this one, and so we've been doing this since 2019.
And by the way, the DA's office that I stole him from was Brazos County, which is his home county. And that was Bill Turner.
Bill Turner was the DA. The prosecutor in the Valley case was the DA that was my DA in Brazos County.
Great guy.
I bet he's got some regrets about losing you then.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I'm sure.
I guess that brings us to one of my questions. It seems like, so I guess we're just for context, if anyone doesn't realize, these two were defending Adrian Gonzalez in the case. And I initially started my thumbnails as calling it sort of the Uvalde cowardice case. And then I had to amend them because as time went on, I was like, this is not proving to be what it looks like. But you seem to have a fairly collegial relationship with the prosecutor in that one. I did notice there were some back and forth exchanges, but a lot of stuff got done with stipulations and so forth. So was that a good relationship? Was that?
Yeah, it was. With Bill at least. I mean, Christina, we don't know her as well. We know each other professionally. We're not close with her at all. I mean, Jason's been bragging about Bill for years, and I've heard him, Bill Turner, and it was a pleasure to meet him and work with him. He was on the opposite side of an issue. We can still think a lot of him, even if he's wrong. And so, yeah, the stipulations that we made, it wasn't because of the collegial relationship. It was strategic.
Yeah.
We didn't want the jury to think we're not trying to hide anything. We're not defending this horrific act that obviously the monster, we called him the monster because he was, that did. So we were saying that we're not trying to hide that. We wanted to make sure that we want the jury to have all that. The judge made his rulings. So our stipulations were more strategic than they were to be collegial, because you can like somebody and still fight like hell with them. And like, as you saw, we did at times. So that was ours.
Yeah. And, but with my relationship with Bill, I mean, I was one of his prosecutors for 4 years, and when I was a baby, so he taught me a lot. I mean, this was 17 years ago now, but he taught me a lot. And, and he was the DA in my hometown for 30 years. And my parents know him and are friends with him and his wife. And so there is that collegiality and respect. However, Nico's right. I mean, we wanted the jury to see almost everything. Obviously, I think you saw the one thing that we did not want anyone to see, and nor should they, was the autopsy photos of the children. But because you can imagine what an AR-15 round would do to a child's body, and it's the most horrific thing you've ever seen. So that we thought that could be too much, could overload the jurors so much that they would be so angry that they would just convict Adrian out of pure disgust and anger and emotion.
Yeah. And I agreed with your arguments, although as I recall, the judge admitted the photos, but I was sort of shaking my head.
He didn't admit all of them, so there was some horrific. All of them were horrific, but there were literally photos of children stacked on each other that they determined were not going to make it. It was just horrible. And look, Jason and I have prosecuted a lot of cases. We defend a lot of cases, and we've seen some bad evidence in cases. This is the worst evidence I think we both admit we've ever seen,
and never will probably. Because we're never going to represent an actual shooter who would do something like this. So we're not ever going to have a case like this again unless they charge a police officer.
Right.
Yeah, and I hope not, because this case itself was horrific, but the decision to charge Adrian Gonzalez was also a bit of a head scratcher, at least once the evidence came out.
Well, what you said earlier, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I know you want to ask a question, but I really want to. A compliment that you gave earlier was I started these thumbnails with the Coward case or whatever, and it just shows your humility and your pursuit of truth for you to say, you know what, and my opinion changed. I don't look at social media when I'm in trial. Jason does sometimes. He does. He's my social media designated watcher, but I get real jacked up and focused. But now that I'm catching up a little bit on it, some of the best compliments are, I went into this trial with my mind made up. And in the middle of the trial, and just won in a conviction. And in the middle of the trial, I realized that I was hoping for an acquittal, and I'm so glad that it happened. And that's humbling that the truth can get out, not just because we're competitive people. Put us in the back of the bus. It's because Adrian and his family have gone, and not to take away from the families what they're going through. Okay, it's not a comparison. Everyone has their own journey. But Adrian has been labeled a monster for 3 years. It's like they've superimposed the real monster because he's no longer here to Adrian, and he's had to live with that, and his family's had to live with that. So for the truth to get out, and for people to actually say, you know what, I'm changing my mind because I've seen the truth, it's humbling, but it's also, I think it's a righteous thing to do. So thank you for you taking that position as well.
Well, I came in and I at the beginning of my coverage, I straight out said to people, I'm not going to be great at doing the analysis here because I'm coming in from a strong bias. And I said, I think this guy, needs to go down from what I've heard, because I was assuming that he was in a different category of police officers. And then as the trial went down, I was like, I'm still waiting for them to have some good evidence here. And witness after witness seems to be getting busted. And then finally I was like, the case I'm hearing is actually that he was the guy who was trying. And maybe he didn't, maybe he missed, he drives by the shooter because he can't see him because he's tunnel visioned. But that doesn't mean he wasn't trying. It just means that he was imperfect in a situation where, anybody is going to be imperfect. I like to think that I would be, John Q. Badass in that circumstance. But, and I think that's kind of the importance of defense lawyers as well, because I watched you turn lots of different police witnesses from, he should have gone in there, to, well, no, I see what he was doing, and it's not, he actually did have a strategy here. I get it. And I watched the officers changing their mind, all the officers except one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hill.
Yeah.
Mr. Hill.
Well, I would tell you this. Jason and I try cases differently. We're very strategic. We bring our personal experiences. We bring our experience as prosecutors, also former prosecutors, and we have a plan with each witness. Okay, how are they going to help the government's case? How do we need them to help our case? And what evidence do we have to hold them accountable? Because if it gets into a pissing match of, no, you didn't say that, you have to be able to either refresh their memory, impeach them, or discredit them the right way, depending on how the witness responds to us in front of the jury, because it's all how the jury's going to perceive that. So we did that with every witness. A couple of them, because you don't know when they're going to call witnesses. And they gave us a list of 160 or something crazy. Maybe that's a little too much, but so some we had to just go on the fly, and then we had to rely on our experience, thankfully, and then writing to each other, taking notes, and then our paralegal Michelle is just amazing. She knew this case upwards and downwards. We came off of a big trial in October on these 3-officer case, and so and get back into work in other cases, and then Michelle really got us up to speed.
Yeah,
I have to ask, just as a ballpark, sort of how many person hours went into this file?
It would probably be somewhere like 500 to 600, that we were, as far as full person hours. And then of course, because we were trying, what Nico referenced, in October, we had a case that went 4.5 weeks, in San Antonio. So, these are and in Texas, I don't know about where y'all are, but in Texas, that is not normal. Like normally you can do a capital murder trial in a week, and that's kind of how that rolls. But we came off a 4.5 week trial, and So we had to really catch up from between that time and getting here to trial. And there was like 6 terabytes. The Rangers report itself was like 5,000 pages. There's almost 5,000 pages. So,
Well,
you know.
and I was impressed just, watching like moments where, for instance, Nick Hill at one point is looking in his binder for a time. And I watched this is the time, like check my work, but this is the time,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
Well, you're sending a
got
message
this down.
Yeah, you're sending the message in that to the jury that you know this case, and so and you do that, then there's credibility. I always tell when Jason's a mock trial coach at St. Mary's. He's a phenomenal trial lawyer, and he's board certified in criminal law. I learn from him every day. He's the evidence guru in our office, and we tell people there's 2 things. Number one, you're telling the jury that you know this case, and too many lawyers try to be liked in trial. We don't try to be liked. We try to be credible. Because if you're credible, most people like you. But even if they don't like you, if you're credible, then they'll listen to you. And so you're telling the jury one thing, but then you're also telling the witness, hey, Jack, don't mess around. Because next time I ask you a question, I already know the answer. And so there's a lot going on strategically. Now you have to do it the right way. There's the 10 commandments in Exodus, right? But the 11th one is don't be a dick. And it can come back to bite you, okay? I always joke with my friends at church about that. But, and it's true in trial work. You got to make sure that you get buy-in from the jury when you go on hard. And you can't start with fire. You end with the fire, though.
I always tell that to young lawyers is like very rarely should you start with fire. And if you do that, you're making a bet that you have to deliver on. But usually, you have to get the jury to disliking the person and to thinking they're a weasel before you can start calling them on it. So it's kind of a matter of the jury has to be angry with this person before you can. And, watching that cross-examination, I was like, here he's teasing out the inconsistencies. He's getting... And later you can see the frustration. You can see the, like, really, that's your answer? And that kind of, and it's, you don't get there unless the jury has already, and it was a masterclass in watching it done because all through the trial, it was very gentle cross-examinations. You had a lot of witnesses who, I was actually impressed by the witnesses because they came at it with, I think, a real dedication to truth. And the people who approached it with respect got respect.
Yes.
And
yeah, one of the things too, because you couldn't see the jury, you're watching the feed, you can't see them, but I'll tell you, like in the room, I've never seen this. When Nico was crossing Nick Hill, you could see them, and Nico would ask a question, and their eyes, because at some points he was standing at one part of the TV, and Hill was on the stand, but their eyes would look at Nico, ask the question, and then they'd go, at Hill, like, what you got to say about that? And so the jury was doing that, and so like you could tell that they were just like they were listening, and they were like, and looking at him. And I can't understand how he could still answer those questions. He could see the jury doing that to him. He's got 12 or 15 people that are looking at him in the face going like, all right, now what? Say it again. What are you saying? So that was, and it goes in with what you're saying, which is we did know we had that buy-in from them because they're responding like that visibly in the courtroom.
Yeah.
So that was good. But I'll tell you, after that cross, I shook his hand. And he'll tell you, I'd never do that.
He's never shaken my hand
I
ever.
walked up and shook his hand because I've seen him do hundreds of crosses. We've been doing this stuff for 10 years. But I shook his hand because it was so important that he did that on that witness, because that was the witness that could hurt us the worst. And he completely just deconstructed the dude down to a puddle. And you know what I mean? And so when I looked at that, I expect excellence all the time from him, but it was a step above that. And I was like, I got to shake your hand, dude.
I would look, a handshake from Jason Goss means something. I mean, we usually hug each other if we're saying bye to each other, but he shook my hand and it meant something. And I'll tell you this, we were both prepared to cross that guy, but I had done so much of the tactical stuff. So Jason just goes, you want me to take him? Yeah, this guy should be insignificant. He's just going to kind of bring everything together. You've been doing the officers. And I said, all right, I'll take him. It was that type of deal. It wasn't like we were going in thinking, I'm going to get this dude. He's going to be difficult, because we don't know how these witnesses are going to be. To your point, some of them, like Swick was honest. Some of the other ones were honest. Torres tried to give Jason a little bit of trouble. Then Jason had to kind of put the screws on him a little bit. And then he woke up. So this one was more of I'll take him. I've been doing the lap. Yeah, go ahead. That's great. And then it worked out, because styles make cross-examinations. Jason's got a phenomenal style. He's got that he does things that I can't do. And then I do things maybe. And so it worked out well. So
it had to be him for that guy, because it really, what happened is that some of the stuff the guy talked about, his animation and other things that didn't look great for Adrian. All of that kind of just went away because the jury just didn't like the guy who made it, because he was doing what he was doing with Nico. And so it was great.
Some of the comments he made, I could tell you, like just watching my chat and the people's responses to it, like when he said, oh, well, it doesn't make any difference, AR versus a handgun. People in my and I find the audience is a very good bellwether for things, because a lot of the audience, they're sort of familiar with, because they watch channels like this, but they're ordinary people. They're not lawyers. And so sometimes I'll see something and it's a lawyer argument and I'll like it, and the chat is just like, that doesn't land for us. But watching people just going like, what, in the chat when that came out, was like, yeah, he oversold that. He and it was masterful, that cross-examination.
Well, Ian, I got to
Very,
give you a compliment, because you had me and Gary, the other lawyer. We were in tears. We were listening to you when you said something like, if everybody answered questions like Nick Hill, the murder rate would go up like 50%. and then you gave the example of, like, if my wife goes, "Hey, did you do the dishes?" Well, did I have sex with the dishes? No, I didn't have sex with the dishes. Like, I mean, we loved it because it was accurate. It was right on. I mean, that's exactly like what we were experiencing with this guy, and the way you said it, it was just. And I came and told him, and he started laughing.
I started laughing. He said, "What?" So that's
great.
Yeah.
It's no, I mean, you with a witness like that, there was a point where I was like, okay.
So there are some attorneys that do, like they just said that they were watching Runkle for his analysis. So they are quite, it's good to know that they do go to YouTube and do watch certain clips and stuff like that. Well, not clips, but they do keep abreast to some stuff, But that's always good to know. And it's probably reassuring for them and gives them guidance as well of where they're going. And it seems that Runkle's one of those that pretty much everyone goes to, I think, as attorneys. That's not true for all attorneys, but I think, Runkle's well respected, I think, and it gives a balanced view. So I think same with Peter Tragos as well.
This guy's not going to come along, because some of the witnesses, you were very good at giving them an out. Like, okay, you've said something, it's a stupid thing, but here's an out where you can save face and you can sort of climb on board. And so there were a lot of witnesses where you got them to do that. And I was like, this guy's never going to do that.
Yeah.
He's never going to be on
And
board.
the out, as you know, as a trial lawyer, benefits you because either the out brings you credibility, like, hey, I was wrong, you were right. And then just subconsciously people are thinking, okay, if you're right about this, then you're going to be right to ask me for a verdict down here. Or if there's a piece of evidence that no one can absolutely establish is true, most jurors, if they think you're credible and they trust you, will defer to your opinion of it. So getting credibility like that from witnesses, whether you give them the out and you look gracious, and that's our style anyway, it's who we are. We want to give people an opportunity to kind of come to the truth and objective truth. But if they don't, then they can be gently corrected, like I did with Ms. Flores and Jason did with other witnesses, just kind of refresh their memory versus an impeachment. At some point with Hill, I just felt and I knew that it was, I could go a little step further, but with my personality, I still have to be careful because I can take it even too far. So I was really, praying for steadfastness and temperance.
I have that same problem where you get to a witness and, cross-examination can be fun. And if you go too far, then you get the jury is just like, oh, now this lawyer's a jerk.
Yeah.
I don't like this guy because he's being too mean. And I heard in sort of the post interview, you mentioned that you had asked the jury about that. Like, did I go too far on him? And that's a great question. I wish we could ask jury questions here in Canada. We can't.
Oh, no, you can't? They don't let you visit with them after?
It's actually a criminal offense to ask a jury about their deliberations.
After? I mean, not about the deliberations, but about their opinion on style or what influence.
Anything. Basically, they actually had to change the law here to allow jurors to go to therapy because, like, a trial like this, you see some really horrific things. Maybe you want to go talk to somebody about it afterwards. Yeah. And quite frankly, I think that the government, on a trial like this should be putting aside in their budget, like, we will look out for you guys as well.
Oh, definitely. Their secondary trauma was all over this trial. I mean, for the audience, for anybody watching, for the reporters and for the jury and for everybody in the courtroom, because, to go with what Nico was saying, so the judge actually did a pretty good job with the autopsy photos. He just did the identity photos for each child, and that was it. And that was bad enough. But all of the injuries and everything else that was documented was not shown to the jury. But we didn't know that at the beginning because what the prosecutor was trying to get the judge to do was horrific. And that's why in our opening statement, we were like, you're about to see the most horrible things you can ever see in your life. It was still really bad, but it could have been a lot worse.
I had a real fear that we might see a jury essentially engage in jury nullification, being like, I am so angry about these pictures that somebody's got to pay. And this is the guy in the chair right now. So that's who we can go after.
You're smart. You're very wise to think that way. We thought that way too. And so our strategy on that was how we question the jury in our voir dire. We say voir dire down here. I don't know if you guys say voir dire but we say, down south it's voir dire, up north. Yeah. So down in our voir dire, we had questions like that. Jason has really honed in his skill. Have you heard of Robert Hirschhorn? Yep. He's a jury consultant, jury selection consultant. He's got wonderful style and a process on scaled questions. Well, Jason, we went to a CLE years ago and just mastered. I mean, I shouldn't say master, I don't want to overdo it, but he's really good at it. I mean, and so we put them together. He's good at formulating the questions. We think about what we're trying to, and our numbers. And so that was one of the things that we talked about in voir dire, in our questioning, and then in opening statements. We kind of over prepared them to see horrible pictures. because we didn't know what the judge's final rulings were going to be. So it worked out though, thankfully.
Yeah.
I mean, even
and Ian, your analysis, but your analysis on that, it was right on, because you were talking about jury nullification, and most people think of it, and I think you said that most people think of it as like, the guy's guilty, but I'm just going to let him off. But nullification can happen the other way, where they say, he's not, but somebody's got to pay for this, and it's going to be him. So,
very true.
Yeah. I mean, just hypothetical question. If the monster, which I like the term, if he'd lived, do you think Gonzalez would have been?
Nope. No,
and Jason said that in the trial. I think you said that in your closing.
Right.
Someone had to sit in that chair, and because the monster's not here, then it's Jason. And you know what? And we made it, because I know you probably like the strategy side of this as well. We made a conscious decision not to mention the word scapegoat.
Yeah.
If you go back in that trial, we never said it. We presented evidence to support it, and we wanted the audience, hopefully the jury, when they got there, to come up with it themselves. So everybody else started using the word scapegoat. We never used it, the actual word.
Yeah, there's certain words and certain concepts that you want the jury to get to on their own.
Right.
Call the witness a liar. No. You want the jury to call the witness a liar.
Exactly. Right.
You just want to show them and get them to that conclusion. And scapegoat, I think it would have been a major tactical error to use that word, because they might have punished you for it.
Yeah, because they think, I read something somewhere that said that if you try to tell somebody something, then they have an automatic resistance to what you're trying to say. But if that comes up in their own brain and they're telling themselves that thing, they trust it and believe it. So if you're getting them to the point where they're saying scapegoat in their mind, it'll stick in their mind forever.
Well, and it sounds like, defraying responsibility. It sounds like an excuse when you say scapegoat. But if they think scapegoat, then, it's not that you said it and are, making excuses. It's that they've come to that conclusion. And so they can't hold it against you and against your client that way.
That's right.
Which I noticed that there were a lot of times when I was sitting there going, that's objectionable, but you would either let it go, or a couple of times you made what I'd sort of call a soft objection. I really like the one where it was, he's leading the heck out of his witness, but that's okay. We'll fix it on. We'll deal with this on.
That was all for the jury. That was completely for the jury. I wanted to find a way to say he's not supposed to be leading, but I don't care, because the truth will take care of everything. And so that was on the fly. Sometimes Jason looks at me like, "What the hell did you just do?" Yeah. But yeah, that was a very strategic way to do that, because I wanted the jury to know that I see it. He's not supposed to do it. There's a difference between direct and cross. But it doesn't matter what he does, because I'm going to fix it. And it's also putting the witness on, oh shit, what's coming to me. So there's a lot of strategy in it. It was genuine, don't get me wrong, but it was still strategic as well.
Yeah.
But there were other places where I thought an objection might come, and then you didn't. And I was wondering if there was sort of a low objection strategy to it.
Yes. So a low objection strategy, because in a case like this, where we are basically, until we got to Hill, we were basically agreeing to what the facts are. We're just disagreeing about what they mean, and Adrian's role in that. And so a lot of the stuff that they were trying to do, we just said, it's better for us to look to the jury like, we're not bothered by any of this. Like, this is, we want the truth to come out. We don't really, we're not trying to block anything. We knew our major objection had to be the photos and some of the other things that were just so prejudicial. But otherwise, we wanted to do that. And, I kind of noticed from some commentators, like professional ones like yourself, that there is kind of a shock at Texas courtroom rules, because we're kind of the Wild West out here. Yeah. So we kind of get loose with it. We say things that other people are like, oh my gosh, I could never say that in my courtroom with my judge. But there is kind of a lax idea about it. And especially if the reputation that we have, judges kind of will let us do our thing. And so that's why we would do something. I think that maybe that other people from other jurisdictions, other lawyers might go, trial lawyers would go, oh my gosh, that would never fly where I'm at, So
one of the things covering trials in different areas, you see sort of different perspectives, because here, we can make objections that might be counted as speaking objections elsewhere, in the sense that we can stand up and say, like, objection, that's hearsay, or objection, the witness didn't say that. But if we want to get into anything, like any of the discussion, we have to ask the jury to leave. Mm-hmm. And whereas there was a lot more sort of back and forth objections until eventually the judge is like, okay.
Yeah, every judge is different, cause we like juries to know that we're going to confront the circumstance, the issue in front of them. And what we try to do is get the jury the sense that this is the way we are when we're not in trial. Too many people have a pulpit or a podium personality or a courtroom personality. And yes, there's decorum, there's formality. Him as a mock trial coach, me as a former adjunct mock trial coach, and we like to do things the right way. But there's also a fluidity and a genuineness there that you lose when you think you're too above people and you want to get down with them in the trenches and make them, again, how would we want to see this or hear this if we were sitting in that jury? To keep our attention, but also to make it simple for us to understand. And then thirdly, does the attention and the simplicity bring us over to the verdict that we want, that change our mind?
Yeah, like at the time where he asked the prosecutors, like, all right, what questions do you want me to ask? You know, and then prosecutor said, pass the witness, and Nico said, not a chance, because he knew how hurt he was getting on that thing. But an exchange like that is like obviously very much not in the rules of evidence, and you can't do it normally. But it was a great time in the trial that showed the jury that the prosecutor himself knows that this witness is doing so badly that he's begging Nico to pass him back over.
It was funny because the camera at that point was from like standing right next to the jury, and you could hear the laughter, and it's distinctly louder than anything else. And so my comment on Twitter was, that's the jury laughing.
Yeah, they did. Like, the whole jury did.
And I said, get a shovel, because at the point where, you're getting a joke like that, the jury is laughing.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's bad.
And I don't plan on things like that. It's got to be organic and natural. Another one that Jason reminded me of was with Mike Wexel, their expert. And I liked him. I really liked him. I mean, he ended up being, I think, a good witness for us. We turned him and brought some good points out. But I think he said something about, you need to take a class. Like, you're not advertising, are you?
Oh, yeah.
And I was right next to the jury, and they laughed because, and when you can do something like that, that's authentic and genuine and not forced and not staged, in a case so serious and with such horrific evidence, it really changes the environment for a second, and then it humanizes you to the jury. So I don't look for those. It just has to fit your personality, and everybody's trial personality is different.
Yeah.
Well, there were some very human moments there in terms of things like, the very genuine, like, thank you to the special educator, and so forth. I was like, there was a lot of humanity on display, and I was, at times I was moved by it. I was just like, wow, this is, and I really liked some of your non-crosses, if I can call them that, where you'd have like a family member who, gets up, and the question would be, I'm really sorry, for what you've gone through. Thank you. No more, no questions and those kinds of things. I thought that it was a very, very humanitarian, I guess, trial. Like, and there were a lot of witnesses that you could have gone hard on that you very much didn't, and you were very gentle with. So, I mean, that is A, way more effective, but B, to be commended. Like, I just
thank you. I mean, our position was everybody but a police officer in this case is a victim, and not a victim of Adrian, but they are a victim, and they went through that kind of tragedy and trauma. That what does it gain us? What does it gain us to try to do anything more to hurt them when it gives us nothing? But if we just show, because honestly, like a lot of the times when I was cross-examining them, like I was holding back because I was trying, my eyes were watering, because every time I'm looking at them and I'm thinking like this horrible loss that you suffered, and now you're here in this courtroom and you're having to talk about the woman who told the story about her daughter wanting to come home, but she said, we paid $2 for the pizza party, and she left her at school. I mean, and I can just imagine if that were me. And so asking her questions, it's just, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. And it's such I hated that they were putting, when it became clear to me that they weren't going to land this and get a conviction, I was hating every time that they brought a family member up to go through that. Because I mean, that's one of those details that if it was me, I'd be begging to forget, not to, share on a national stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, when because I said in close, I alluded to it. I said, why the prosecutors brought those people, and why they were showing you some of that stuff. And every juror in my field division went, yeah, like they were nodding because they were. What happened was it turned the jury against them, because they're like, quit showing me all this hurt and tragedy. Show me whatever it is about Adrian, but none of this has anything to do with him. It just has to do with trying to get us emotionally ginned up to convict them, to nullify, like you said.
Yeah, there was a point where a lot of the witnesses I ended up basically skipping over and just saying, like, this witness gets up, she tells that it is very tragic that she lost her child, and we don't need to watch it because it's just. How has this been, like, in terms of, because it's been a very public trial? Like, what's your email inbox looking like? Are you getting hate mail and so forth?
Yeah, some, honestly, but a lot of positive too. But this is the most high profile case we've handled. I mean, let's just call it what it is. And we've handled a lot of high profile cases here locally, but this has been the most high profile case. But we were when I was in office, I dealt with a lot of high profile situations, and Jason was one of our court chiefs and one of our lead prosecutors. So, we've been acclimated to a high profile case, and the way we respond to that is the same way you deal with a non-high profile case. Honesty, genuineness, consistency, authenticity. That's the recipe. There's not a different way to deal with a high profile versus a non, for us at least, because we want that consistency. But yeah, there was some, and there was some things said, and some people maybe may or not threats to certain people, but
Well,
But
there was
a lot of positive stuff.
there was an American Airlines pilot that that got in, because we have a client kind of not really a client, but like a potential client. If you go to our website and you email us, and then it comes to our receptionist, and he said, I just want you to know, I hope Mr. Gonzalez rots in jail. And so our paralegal wrote back. She said, sir, we represent a lot of Mr. Gonzalez's at this firm. Could you please be more specific? And
Especially in South Texas.
while we're in the middle of this, trial, but we looked him up because he left his name, and there were some other threats that the people there in Corpus Christi, they were really good. The DA's office there, who didn't really have a dog in the fight, were very gracious to us as well. And
Very gracious.
And one of the threats came in, and a lady, I think she was in Massachusetts, and the DA investigator out in Corpus Christi got on the phone with her and said, well, do you mind writing that down and faxing it to us? And she wrote it all down, in fact, the threats, and faxed it. So, yeah, just some weird stuff that's been going on. But it's to be expected with something like this. You get a lot of the people who are either high emotion or have other mental health challenges that kind of key in on you.
Well, and I noticed that at the close of the trial, I don't know if they call them sheriffs or deputies, the courthouse security, but there were like 4 people surrounding, like, as sort of your group was out. And I was like, yeah, that is because they're worried somebody's going to do something outside or, in the courthouse hallway or the like. So I hope you guys have decent security. Although I guess there was a lot of gun issues in this case, and you guys did really well with them, which a lot of lawyers don't. So
He's a gun guy. And I told him you were too. I said, yeah, he's talking about the fact he is. I said, y'all can talk about it.
Yeah, so I'm a big Second Amendment dude, and I believe in responsible gun ownership. I think you've heard probably in some of the interviews and whatever research you've done, my brother was taken from us in a robbery, a botched robbery in our driveway. And so, I'm a big gun guy, trained with weapons. When I was DA, I used to go training with our investigators and law enforcement. And, I wasn't just a casual observer. I mean, I'm in there training with them and, doing stuff. And so, yeah, it comes in handy on cases like this because I have a very, I think, working knowledge of tactics and guns.
And I get all mine just listening to him because I'm not the gun guy, but I get it by osmosis.
Well, it's essential when you're trying to cross-examine people like, I forget his name, but the trainer, the guy who runs the class.
Whitskoll.
Yeah. Because those are the guys who, if you get something wrong, you make a Clip magazine mistake or something, they're going to use it and flip it around on you and start.
Well, they know though, but they know even if the way you hold your weapon, and even the way you move your hands, you can tell the muscle memory on the weapon.
When I saw you, and I was like, okay, he's done this before. Like, I think I made that comment. I was like, he at least has handled a firearm before.
Oh yeah, a lot. And Whitskoll, I think I sensed it, and you guys are the observers. I'm in the cross, but I sensed his whole demeanor change when he realized pretty early on, okay, this dude, I got to be careful what I say to him. I'm not going to bullshit him. And at the end, and I'm going to say this. He didn't say I couldn't say it. He emailed us and sent a very respectful, gracious email. He was really, I really respect it. I liked him when I told Jason, I go, he's kind of a goofy dude, but I liked him, man. He was just a sincere dude, and he sent that message, and I'm going to reach back out to him and thank him for it.
Yeah,
I liked him too. He's got a bit of arrogance, but I mean, it kind of comes with the profession, and but I got the sense that he wasn't, and he comes at it from like a particular perspective. But when you started challenging him, he was not, I never got the like weasel feeling from him. I got okay, he's trying to answer honestly. He disagrees on some points, but he's he's actually going to engage with what you're saying. He's going to, and so, and I think part of that is that they very much gave him outs in the cross-examination, but he was smart enough to take them.
Yeah, he was. It wasn't a fight over at versus towards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, at versus towards, a rifle is better. The guys who can see him, they don't have a better opportunity.
Yeah, the
super hearing.
The echolocator, the human echolocator.
I just don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a trial an old colleague of mine had, where they had an officer who claimed that he could smell cocaine. It was in a bag, buried under coffee, in a sealed coffee tin, in a moving vehicle that was traveling the opposite direction. And he said
he's in one car. He's outside the car.
He's in one car, and they're crossing on the highway, and he said he could smell it from the other vehicle.
That's great.
And so I think that the question that was asked was something like, have you ever considered a job at the airport because you didn't need a dog? She got sort of slapped for that by the judge, going like, no, but I mean, it's obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a correction like that is worth it. Like the one time the judge, I got to the point where I was even sustaining my own objections because
I laughed at that.
I wanted the jury to know that I know what I'm doing. I got it. I get it. And you know what? They weren't offended by it. They understood the point I was trying to make. Because when you conduct yourself in a consistent way, and this is the way we believe, if you show the jury that and we prepare them in voir dire, by the way. We ask them, we tell them about cross-examination, we ask permission, and we want them to say, we expect you to do it. And so all of that. But if you conduct yourself in a gracious way, professional way, like I'm glad you noticed that, and you give them these outs, not outs because you're trying to help them out, outs because you're going to prove your point anyway. You're just going to go a different route and you're going to get more credibility from it. When you do that and they still do what Hill did, I was more surprised that he came off the weekend with the same attitude. I thought he would course correct, but
I was surprised too, because he came back from the weekend, and when he said things like, you know, I didn't review any of my materials over the weekend, I was like,
we were shocked.
You took a drubbing like that, you didn't go back and have a look.
Yeah, we were shocked and delighted, you know, because then it just goes, all right, let's do it again. But yeah, you know, we actually had some Ranger friends that we've known around. You know, we're kind of texting saying, you know, I'm sure glad y'all are putting a boot up Nick Hill's ass there, because I think he's got that personality with even like his own people. You know? So, unfortunately,
I mean, when you act like that, you kind of develop that kind of animosity. But I mean, if I was the DA in the area, I'd be going, can you find me somebody other than Nick Hill for future trials? Because I don't like how that went, and I don't like how it might go in the future.
And that's not our intent. You know, that's never our intent, you know, because the man's a professional. He's obviously not stupid. And I really want to get people out, because I don't want to win at all costs. We got to win the right way, or it's not a win for us. You know, we have a different mindset, and we should be able to win the right way. And we don't want to lie, cheat, and steal to win. We're moral men, and we got to do it right with ethics. And so when you know, it doesn't bring me pleasure. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy it because I'm a competitor and that's what I do. But it doesn't bring me pleasure because I'm not trying to discredit someone's career. Because I mean, if I was DA, if we were still in the office together and I was DA, I wouldn't use him. I wouldn't put him on the I would never sponsor that guy. Yeah. And I'm being that honest, objectively. And so it brings me no pleasure to expose someone like that, but maybe they still will. Who knows?
Well, it's just confirmation bias, though. I mean, what he was doing is, and that's when my claws come out, is because you go down this journey with your client, and especially something like this. I mean, you can just imagine the bond you form with your client. And now, if anybody's trying to do what he's doing with his bias and knowing, like, okay, our job is to go after him, so I'm going to interpret everything to go after him. And you see somebody, it's like they're attacking a family member by that point, and you're like, absolutely not. Like, we're gonna, you know, so the claws come out, and I mean, and Nico is perfect for it because you know it's just a real quick like staccato that he does. That is definitely not me, but that's what Hill needed, because it was just like watching somebody on the ropes just getting hit over and over and over again, and he didn't know which way was up. And we needed. How
annoyed were you about the 3 p.m. close at the at his when you were cross-examining him, and they're like, "I'd love to let you finish, but we're at 3 p.m."
Yeah, it was because you're on. I mean, we're getting on a roll, but you know I was glad that we made it through to the 3 p.m. just because I didn't want them to end. Like if it went later and we had stopped, I didn't want it to end with them like redirecting them or, you know, doing something to make it look more positive or playing that animation again, you know, or something like that. That kind of the evidence we didn't like. But you notice after we did that with the animation, they never played it again to the jury ever.
Never played it again.
I think the problem is that once you brought in because I was expecting that animation to have a major feature in close.
Yeah, we said it. So they're going to do it.
We were ready for it, and it just shows that maybe thankfully a cross like that. Just said we're gonna pull, and they cut off witnesses. There's a lot of things, you know, that we believe happened because of the result of certain ways that witnesses were handled, and we just felt blessed by it because it really changes the direction of a trial because they had a lot more witnesses and they had rebuttal evidence. And then I just think at some point Bill said, you know what, whatever I have, whatever I don't, I don't. I'm not going to keep doing this because it gets getting worse. So thankfully that happened.
Well, and I thought your the defense case was also very clean with just the 1-2. Here's our witness that completely blows up his theory because it puts him in between the cars and not behind the cars. And then here's our tactics, use of force, strategies guy. And your guy did way better.
Way better. He did way better. Yes.
Well, because we told him, we said, you see what Nick Hill's doing, don't do that.
No matter what.
Yeah.
I'd rather you be more agreeable and we'll just clean stuff up than you fight with him and look like the other guy.
Oh, the fighting was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know this is really more Adrian's place to say, but I hope he's going to be okay. Like, I hope he's doing better.
I think he is. Like, it's, when people ask him, like, well, what are your regrets? And he's like, look, I don't have any regrets about what I did because I did the best I could at the time. And I can't ever do anything different. He can't sleep at night. He sleeps at night about his own actions. But what is painful is just being a part of it. Because see, that's what gets left out of it is that all of these officers and everybody who responded, they were all traumatized as well by this. Yeah. And people can judge like how they acted or what they did or what they didn't do. But I'll tell you, they all, after the shooter was dead, they all ran into the room and you have never seen a bunch of police officers, they screaming, crying, they're fainting, their hands are between their knees. And, it's because they're all human beings. And, even a guy like Joe Vasquez, that's a tough dude. Joe Vasquez who went in on the stick and with his gas mask on and he was ready to go. Even when he was testifying, when he talked about looking over and seeing what he saw, I mean, he broke down there. I mean, it's traumatizing. And Adrian has that same trauma. It didn't change because they've charged him. He's still one of the officers who responded, and that is a bunch of kids that he knew. He knows those children. He's related to some of those children. I mean, everybody in that town is related. And so it's just that trauma stays with him, but he's relocated and he's got his family, and he does actually have a lot of support from Uvalde. There was overwhelming messages from Uvalde saying congratulations, and we knew you did, it was the right thing, and they were glad. But obviously there are still some in Uvalde who hold him responsible.
I'll tell you, Ian, I won't say their name, but we got a message from a couple in Uvalde who are the parents of a child that passed. Mm-hmm. And they said, thank you for what you did. And we think it was the right result. I mean, that was just, to me, that was, for me, as I'm a man of faith, I believe that was God's affirmation to us saying, sons, you did well. And so, I mean, you can't get a better affirmation than a parent of one of the children who passed. And I'm going to keep that from privately for something in my memory for the rest of my career.
Yeah. I mean, there is, and I think it really says the importance of public proceedings, because if this trial hadn't been televised, I read a lot of the media inquiry, like the media comments, and the media comments basically made it sound like it was, on a path to conviction, like it was just decided. And, but the people who watched the trial, they came away with a different view, and being able to actually see that is such a gift.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I mean, seeing like your viewers and the people who watch your channel, and you can tell it's like you said, they're more sophisticated. They're more willing to understand that, hey, there's a direct examination, but there's also a cross. Let's see what else comes out. And and some of the other channels too that where people who are watching you and watching those other things are watching the trial and watching your recaps of the trial, that you could see a huge shift in the way that everybody thought about it. But we got onto our local media because they had been reporting in San Antonio. They would just report the direct, and they wouldn't say anything about what the cross, what came out on cross. Furious. And I said, if you had every trial and all you had was a direct examination, everybody's going to get convicted. You got to have a cross to bring that out.
I actually had an appeal case about that because the judge just said, well, given that there was contradictory evidence between direct and cross, I prefer the evidence of the officer on direct. Oh, and the appeals court was like, no, you cannot do that.
Yeah, no, of course.
But that's what the media does. Mm-hmm. It's
and that was part of the vindication for Adrian and his wife and his family. Just the fact that the narrative changed, and and that was our. And so you said something, because I'm an old school dude, where I asked him, I was against televised trials and I thought to myself, wait a minute, in the 1800s they would go to this big old area and they'd be packed, everybody with fans sweating on each other because people wanted to watch. So we're in a different time, but it's a blessing, because to Jason's point, you can always tell who's watched the trial and who's read about the trial. Mm-hmm. Completely different. And so this way people can see it for themselves, even if it's not now. They can see it whenever they want to, and that's a blessing that they get to see that for themselves. They're gonna have to go against the facts. They're entitled to their opinion, but they're not entitled to their own facts.
Yeah, and Adrian did an interview that went out last night on ABC in the National. And one of the reasons that was the one we did is because their reporting throughout had been fair. They had consistently brought all the points out that should be brought out. And for us, our thing is like, if you report fair, then right. We'll go to you. And because we wanted him also, because this is like after his exoneration, we wanted him to be seen in a fair light about who he really was. And they did a great job in what they did, and how they interviewed him, and the stuff that they played showed, who he was. He's a human being who did the best he could with what he had. That's right.
Yeah, we all just hope never to be that, tested like that. Oh, yeah. And but I went into it expecting to sort of think, okay, this guy is a coward. He just ran and hid. He didn't do anything. And at the end of it, I was like, well, at every step, he's trying to do something, and it might not be what we think is the best thing to do. He's talking to this witness. He's trying to figure out where things are. But whenever he's got the opportunity, he's going to somewhere to help.
Yes.
He's going in to help. Or when they tell him we can't get SWAT, he's going out, but he's not going out because he's afraid. He's not going out because he can't handle it. He's going out because somebody has to do it. And I kind of have my own personal motto, which is just, I'm someone. And what that sort of comes down to is, in any of those moments where it's like somebody's got to do something,
I'm that person.
Why not me? Right?
Yep.
Why?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what I see him doing at all times. He's like, somebody's got to get SWAT on the radio. I'll do it.
Yep.
Somebody's got to find some keys. I'll do it. He's always
the map, the layout of the school.
Get those kids out of the window. He was breaking windows and pulling children out of the window. I mean, that's like, those kids all went home to their parents in part because he was willing to. They had a hallway full of rifles by then trained on the door. So that's not where he needed to be. He needed to be helping those kids and those teachers get out. And that one teacher, when I asked her, I said, "How did you feel when the officers came to that window after you're hunkered down thinking you're about to die? How did you feel?" And she said, "Just so relieved, so grateful, so relieved." That was Adrian. That gave you that feeling of relief.
Well, and when you said, "Did you know that was Adrian?" and she went,
"No."
And I don't know if you catch it, but she says no, and she looks over to him. And she gives him this look in that moment of
thank you.
Oh, I was wrong about
Right. I saw it. I saw her do that, and I, you know, because I saw that realization, because she has associated those people, the persons that pulled her and her children out, as somebody who was like heroic, or somebody who was help, somebody who was a good guy. And so now, like, having her, you know, in her mind, she didn't know, but now she figures out that, oh my gosh, he's the one I've been associating with, the good guys who came and helped her.
It's such a sort of horrific story, but at the end of it, like, Gonzalez could have been written in an entirely different way. And I found myself sitting here thinking, like, if they were charging one of these other officers, they could have been spending the entire trial saying, look at what Adrian was doing. Why weren't you doing that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Adrian runs in. Why do you run out?
Yeah.
Why do you stay outside? What, you know,
why did it take you 20 minutes and it took him 3 minutes to get in that building? And really, it took him, like, what we established and what we were trying to establish the whole time is this: he knew the gunman was in the building when he saw the shot go through the window, because he knew that there was somebody inside shooting out, and he got in the building less than 10 seconds from when he saw that. So he saw that happen, and he went, and then they ran in, and he was one of the first two to go in that building. And you know, and it's exactly right. You could try one of those other ones and go, hey, you knew he was in the building. Why didn't you go and run in the building like Adrian did? Yeah.
And is there sort of lessons to be learned here? We did see that there were like a whole lot of issues with the doors locking and so forth.
I mean, there's lessons for everybody. I mean, tactically, they need to train these officers and give them clarity. Jason argued very effectively that they tell you some things, they don't tell you how to do those things. And then there's mixed messages. We don't recommend, we saw with Wetzel's training himself, we don't recommend you going in alone, wait for 2 or 3 officers. But some people think this and some people think that. These are just suggestions. There's not a standard. But and where are the schools at? What are they doing? Making sure doors are locked. Look, if someone asked me, and we've had many conversations about this, if you had to pick one, what is one event or one incident in that, as Jason said, cascade of horror that happened that day, they could have possibly had the best chance of changing the outcome? And it has to do with those locks. Mm-hmm. Even aside from if Adrian saw him, would have seen him, he didn't. If those 3 officers would have reacted or tried to respond or took a shot, whatever, they didn't. If they didn't drive away and ran to the building, they didn't. But if one thing could have changed, if those doors were locked, he never gets in.
Yeah.
Or they sure going to shoot him before he does.
Or they delay it. Yeah. And time mattered.
They surround him outside as he's sitting there looking like an idiot trying to figure out how to get in the door, and that's it.
That's it.
You know, and
we probably wouldn't be talking about the case.
You got to have shields, and you have to have the right weapons, and you have to have the right training. You have to have mechanisms. Either these doors, these outward swinging doors, either there's some pass lock, or we were talking about that there's a way of having this bulletproof foldable wall in many schools where they just fold it out and they lock it, and then the kids get in a corner. Who cares if you're like sardines? You're safe. You get in a corner and you're safe, locked.
Yeah. This case, it reminded me of one that's happened here in Canada, but somebody had pulled out a gun in a bar, and the first officer to go in, he rushed in, just, you know, all gung-ho, and he got shot. Yeah. And then the other officers listened to him, like this officer, you know, who had been shot for 15 minutes or something. They were hearing this guy, but they couldn't go in because there was a guy with a gun on the door. Right. And I was just thinking, this, you know, that's the situation. If Adrian just goes and charges in and he's the first guy and he just rushes in, does it help anything? Or is it just, you know,
he's dead at the door? I mean, Joe Vasquez said, who ended up going in. I mean, that's the thing. He went in, but he had to wait 50 minutes to get the right stuff to go in, because he said, look, you go there, you're dead at the door. And if you stack up police officer bodies at the door, now you're just blocking the door from other officers being able to, when they get their breach materials, from going in. But one of the points we were making is that outward swinging door, and the way the doors are built that way, is to protect the people inside. But the problem is, if you leave it unlocked and let the shooter get in there, it protects the shooter inside, because the doors are designed to keep people out, right? And so if the shooter gets in, now they have to deal with police officers on the outside. The shooter's behind the protection of the door that was meant to be for the kids, and it's because it wasn't locked.
It's such a horrible tragedy, but I'm glad that they didn't compound a tragedy on top of it.
Yeah.
Especially, like, police officers don't get treated well in jail. I can't imagine that would have been a pleasant, you know.
No, definitely not. And you know, and we don't know what would happen. I mean, we went to, I don't know, Ian, the jury doesn't do punishment in Canada, do they? The judge says, yeah. So we have a choice here, and in Texas, we can choose to have the jury do punishment or the judge. And the reason why, because people go, why would you ever have a jury do punishment? Because, you know, you don't know the things, but you won't know what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But there's some offenses that juries are the only ones that can get probation. A judge cannot give probation. A judge would have to give prison. So we have to select jury and judge for that. This isn't one of those, so the judge could give probation. And if he was convicted, we had chosen to go to the judge for punishment, because we knew that if somebody convicts him, they're convicting him on a motion, and if they're going to convict him on a motion, they're going to punish him on a motion, and that's going to be real difficult. Whereas in this judge, he's looked at the trial too, and he can see that even if this guy was guilty of something, he definitely was doing his best to try.
Right.
And that would help with the mitigation, because otherwise Adrian's lived an exemplary life. 20 years, he was 20 years a teacher. I mean, that doesn't really come out a whole lot. He was 20 years a teacher before he was a police officer. So everything those teachers were going through and what he had all of that experience as a teacher. And he said his last class that he taught, they were graduating Uvalde High School at the time that this happened, and he had been a police officer through all that time. So, so I mean, it's just a part of his story that didn't really get told. But he also identified with the teachers that were there, and I mean, one of the teachers that died was they were best friends. Her husband was a police officer at CISD, and he's the one that a lot of people online were like, oh, you got police officers texting in the hallway and they're just looking at their phones. That was the officer whose wife was in the room and had texted him that I'm shot and I'm dying.
Right.
And he was trying to look at his phone to see like what that text message was, or the hand sanitizer guy. Everybody goes, oh, a guy stopped and got hand sanitizer. That guy was told that we're about to bring kids out and you might need to be working on them and give them medical attention. So he was getting the hand sanitizer because he didn't have gloves and he didn't want to infect the kids that he thought he was about to be treating gunshot wounds. So, it's like a lot of that just gets like blown out of proportion and the narrative goes crazy. And, that's one of the things we're trying to fix too with the trial and everything else.
Yeah, I feel like this is a case that needs more sunlight, and certainly some of my views on it have changed quite dramatically from seeing some of this. And so, every new detail learning, like the hand sanitizer thing, I'm like, okay, because that was one of those things that just looks awful, right? It looks terrible.
Yes.
And I think I made the comment, like, why isn't hand sanitizer guy here instead? Well, that could be why, right? Because it's okay, there's a good reason for that.
We always tell people when we talk to clients, we believe none of what we read and half of what we see until we get the whole context, because context is king.
Yep.
Something may look awful, but not unlawful. Something may look bad, but it's not really bad. It just needs to be explained.
Yeah, I mean, because behind that guy, you had a bunch of people putting on gloves because they had gloves, but he didn't have any. So he's going and getting the hand sanitizer because they're thinking we're going to have living children that are coming out that need medical attention immediately. That place was their triage that they were setting up to bring anybody who was alive to try to save their life.
Man, it's such a tragic thing, but it really illustrates the importance of defense lawyers in our system.
Sure.
Because I get a lot of people who say like, oh, this scummy defense lawyer, or so-and-so got off because he had, good lawyers. And I go, well, yeah, everybody should have good lawyers. The failure of our system isn't that some people have good lawyers. It's not everybody necessarily does. But, I got to say thank you for like opening my eyes to some of this, because, my initial thoughts were kind of more anger than understanding.
Sure.
And I hope people are getting more towards understanding on this one. I wonder if there's any possibility for it seems like this is a situation where there needs to be some healing in that community. Like, I felt so bad for that woman who had the outburst, who was removed.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, it's not proper, and I get why she's got to be removed, but at the same time, you feel bad for her, and it's like, well, you can't interfere with the trial, but
and the jury was in the room at that time.
Yeah.
And they're all looking too, I mean, but how you can't blame her. She's listening to what's happening, and to her, the only thing she hears and feels is the loss of her sister, and that it looks like it's trying to be explained away. Like, I think one of her issues that she was yelling in there was that she was saying like, well, my sister locked the door. Why did you need a key? Because she didn't want her sister's memory to be that her door was unlocked or that she had anything. Now, the room her sister was in was not the room that the shooter went in, and the shooter went in the other room, and that was unlocked. And we knew that. But and we weren't trying to do that, obviously, but we, to bring out your client's defense, you have to talk about all these other factors that are going on. And but I don't blame her at all. Uvalde is so small that something like this, taking that many children, that's taking a piece of their future. And I don't know how you ever are going to really get over it, but I know that they are all trying to move on. Like, they're trying to get day to day. They have some memorials there that they religiously keep, and of all the children, and they should. That's how they need to be remembered. Is by the people who love them. So
my understanding is that school has been decommissioned, and they've got a new school.
Yes, they got a new school, I believe, with a lot more security features. And we did actually go to the school in December in preparation for the trial. So now it has been decommissioned. It is basically just like a ghost town. It's just a school where the grass has grown up, and bugs kind of in and out, chain link fences, and but it's we went into the rooms, where he was, where it happened. And, the other rooms, though, those rooms were obviously for evidence and everything else. Those are completely cleaned out. But the other rooms, it was exactly like the children left them when they got out of the window. They still had their certificates of achievement on the desk. It showed it showed where the teachers had been pushing the kids' desk up against the wall and the door. And I mean, it was heavy, being in that space, because, it's just such a pure evil had been there in that closet. I went and stood in that closet where that guy was, and you could just feel just how pure evil visited that school.
I drove past, like I was driving through Uvalde at one point, and I wasn't driving; it was somebody else, but I was in the passenger seat, and I saw the school, and it was all like all of the gates were chained up and so forth. And I said, like, what is here? Like, why is there everything chained up and like, you know? And he said, well, this is, you know, Robb Elementary where the shooting happened. And I went, oh. And then we get to where there's a big sign that says, please have some respect, like, do not take pictures. And, you know, just like the wound to that community, you could feel it where they're saying, like, this is not for you. If you're, you know, if you're passing through, like, just keep passing, right?
Yeah, this isn't a tourist attraction, you know, and my understanding is once all this litigation is finished, because they still have a criminal case pending against the chief, and I think a lot of the civil litigation is done, but I think once all of that is finished, my understanding is they're going to tear it to the ground, and they should. I mean, you know, they just want to have that disappear from the face of the earth.
Put in a park or a memorial or something. I take it you're not representing the chief.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah,
I was like, I couldn't see how that would work.
They would have competing defenses. I mean, we didn't really, you know, when we first got the case, we didn't know, right? We had to go through everything. But we had an idea that, look, there's a real potential for conflict if he's like, well, the chief told me or whatever else.
I mean, there were places like, why did you go out to, you know, to use the radio? Well, because I was told to.
Right.
Well, who's the chain of command? It's the chief. So, no, I didn't think that was likely, but I did want to like tiptoe around there. I mean, the chief seems like he might have more of a difficult case, but
I think, you know, probably because, you know, I don't know. We don't, you know, we talked to his lawyers just because we've been in the same area, but we didn't have strategies and anything like that. So I don't know anything about their strategy. So what I'm saying is just from what I can see is I think it'll be a little easier for them in the idea that he's not charged with any of the children who died. So there's no autopsy pictures. There's not going to be any, like all the stuff that we had to worry about with the jury being overwhelmed by this. I'm almost certain is going to be kept out of that one. And so their case from that perspective is going to be a little better. As far as like, you know, the fact that he was like the person in command. But, you know, I mean, Ian, one of the things that I was telling Nico is like, you don't ever have the FBI, DEA, and Border Patrol, all federal agencies, show up at a scene and say, you know what, the school police chief is the guy that's the commander here. But you have it here because everybody knows that when something like this happens, there's going to be outrage, right? And so
nobody wants to be holding that ball.
Nobody wants to be holding that ball. I mean, the Rangers were out there. They had 40 or 50 Rangers out there. I mean, these are the top law enforcement in Texas and in the United States. And they were letting the CISD police, Uvalde ISD police chief, they said, oh, you're the commander and you do the things. And I think that he is going to have a lot of the same issues that Adrian did, which is he was not understanding what this was. He's thinking barricaded suspect. He's thinking all those other things. And I think some stuff is going to come out in theirs where, you know, he was actually like, you know, the chief thought that the chief doesn't even know that which rooms were connected to which. So he tried to go in the other room around the side of the shooter, but it had a wall there. So the chief went in. He went in and like looked in to see like if I could get through, if there was an adjoining door and the shooter was in the next room, that he could come at him from that angle. And
sort of do a pincer breach kind of thing. Yeah.
But it turned out that it was 111 and 112 that were joined, not 110 and 111. But it's, you know, the chief didn't know that at the time because even though he's the chief, like I said, they didn't have a whole lot of people. They didn't go to that school a lot because it was just an elementary school.
There's only 6 people on the force.
Yeah.
So they can't cover all those schools.
Right.
And the elementary schools aren't realistically going to be, you know, where the trouble is, right?
High school, right? Yeah.
You know, you don't get people who are like carrying a gun to school at that age or like dealing drugs on the school at that age, right?
But here you do. But I mean, again, here we do.
But yeah, no.
Less so, at least at the elementary school than the high school. Like the high school is going to be where you know, you've got people who are like starting to get into a gang who need to be, you know, these kinds of things. Those are mostly high school issues.
Yeah. No, totally agree. They used their resources where they thought it was needed most, which made Robb a very soft target. And you add to that, you know, because in elementary school, they lax about locking doors. And so the doors on all those other things. And you know, you would think somebody like the shooter who was 18 years old had really was kind of a senior high school age. If he was going to go do that, he'd go to the high school. But he was focused on the fact that was his homeroom when he was in 4th grade, 111. And, you know, nobody could have known it. But that's the one. And it was near his grandma's house. So he knew that was going to be the one he was going to go to. But
he's just kind of going on this really simple script, I guess.
Yep. Yeah.
And
yeah, and I mean, it's just, you know, he's a monster, and whatever created that monster, I don't know or care because he's a monster. And the
only reason I'd care is because he was talking to a bunch of people online.
Yeah,
and I just go, how many of you were monsters too?
Yeah, exactly. Like, who are you guys? And like, it's some kind of encouraging him or not stopping him. And
I mean, if I saw somebody like, you know, I've got a Discord. If I saw somebody there saying I'm on my way to shoot up a school, I'd be like, well, not if I can help it. You know, let's. So
sure.
One thing I got to ask, because I'll kick myself if I don't. There was a moment when you guys, so in your close, you brought in the prosecutor's opening. How often did that happen?
I saw you stop that. I saw you say, wait, what? Let me go back. Yeah, Nico and I had a conversation about
I'm
that.
gonna let him answer that real quick. Give me 1 second, okay?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Nico and I had a conversation about that where we, cause I said, we have all this video. And I said, in what he said, what really irritated us was that he had said that, first of all, that Melody Flores had seen the bullet go through the window, and that we had never heard that before. But that was a big deal for us because that's where Adrian said, that's how I knew he was in the school. So that would have been a great corroboration for him. And so he said that, but then she testified that she didn't. But the other thing is, so I don't know where he got that. But the other thing is he told the jury that Adrian Gonzalez got on and said, guys, I think he made it in the school. And that to me was completely untrue. It was Coronado that said it. We proved it at trial. But that to me was one of those things that, like, all the way at the beginning, they are twisting these facts to try to make it Adrian. And any one of us who, if that's not us, would go, that's so unfair. So we talked about it in the evidentiary way of going like, well, is there any objection that you can make to it? Maybe that it's facts not in evidence, but it kind of is. It's just, we didn't have the video in evidence, but that's just demonstrative. And so I said, look, I'm going to make them object to me playing what they said, because objecting to me playing what they said is in and of itself a win.
That would be so much worse for the prosecutor.
Exactly.
I mean, that would have been an absolute sucker trap if they'd gone and said, like, objection, it's my own words.
Yeah,
like,
don't use them against me, And so that's how that came about. And I did it, we're not very technologically advanced or knowledgeable. So I just used my phone and I put it up on the screen, the trial up on the screen, and I put to that part, and I used my phone and I recorded it, and then I emailed it to myself and put it in my PowerPoint and went up there, and it worked. A lot of people who looked at that were like, I had never seen that done before. And I'm like, well, I don't know. There's nothing that says you can't, I guess.
I can't think of many situations. I've quoted prosecutors in a closing statement, but I can't think of many circumstances where, like, because usually the prosecutor's opening statement is the last thing you want the jury thinking of when you're on your close. I was just like, this is such an unusual trial it was
very unusual. It was very unusual. I mean, the witness, having that witness excluded in the first for the Brady violation, which I saw your analysis on that. I mean, it was spot on. It's like, I think you were saying, like, yeah, they're being shit, they're hiding, they're being dirty and shit. I mean, I felt like that. And the one thing that people have asked me is, they said, well, because that was such a crucial point that would just screw us so bad if he was shooter's on the same side as our client. And she never had said it before. But but I'll tell you, the thing that, like, bothered me was how the prosecution kept trying to come back and go, because you commented on it. When I said, like, look, I'm just being gaslighted here. Like, they're talking about the clothing, talking about the shooter is on this side of the building. What are you talking about?
I don't care what he's wearing. I care that, like, could my client have seen him and shot him is the question here.
Yes. And so that disappointed me, because I was just like, look, y'all did not turn that over. I mean, I'm cross-examining the prosecutor, and we convinced the judge to let us do the full cross-examination of the witness. So at least when he excluded it, then they would have the whole thing in their head and not just what the prosecution had said.
And then the prosecutor, who had been like, well, yeah, they can do that, then tried to back out of it. Yep. I was like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, I know. And that disappointed me, because we had an agreement and we had all that stuff. And then he said, well, we looked overnight and there's this other thing. And it was like, that thing didn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. We are all in agreement. And I crossed the elected DA, and she said, we did not turn that over to you. Okay. That's it. That's it. So
it's very rare that you see, like, the DA and the prosecutor getting up to testify mid-trial.
Yeah, it definitely is. When he swore her in, I was like, is this really happening? Am I about to cross her? I can't wait.
The only other trial I've seen it in was the Baldwin trial, and it was a giant disaster in that trial.
Yep.
That was right before the judge threw out the case. So I was like, oh. Yeah. I actually kind of thought that the judge, and I mean, I've had some criticisms for the judge, but I think overall he was a very fair judge. And I know you guys can't criticize him because he's in your area and so forth, but I thought he was a very fair judge.
Well, there's judges we criticize. We're not afraid to criticize judges. Look, you're not going to agree with the judge all the time. We thought some of his rulings, letting some of the stuff in, I get it. Yeah. I don't know what his thinking was. We can always ask him, because we know him well. I have a lot of history with that judge, a lot of interesting history in a good way. But he's got a great demeanor. He let us go at it a little bit. Like I told him after, I said, hey, Judge, sorry about that. Thanks for tolerating me. He goes, Nico, it's a trial. It's like sparring. He's like, it's a trial.
He said, I understand, but I'm still going to raise my voice.
Man. We got thick skin. Like I went to Bill after, and I said, Bill, I don't take things personal. I know your heart. He looked at me like, oh, okay, and yeah, he's a good dude.
Well, Judge Harrell, I was joking with Nico that I'm like the Forrest Gump of this trial, because Nico was my he was my mock trial coach, and then I was with him in the DAs, and then we're partners in defense. Bill Turner was the DA that I was with for 4 years, and he's the prosecutor. And then Judge Harrell was my trial ad professor in law school. So I have, like, the judge that was my trial ad professor, my trial coach and law partner, and the DA that I worked for, and who honestly taught me a lot, because I was a baby then. And he taught me a lot about what I do. He even told me, he said, I wish I hadn't taught you so much, because you're using it effectively against me, which was a compliment from him, but yeah, the judge, I think he was definitely trying to balance that. He had a courtroom full of family members,
Right.
and he wanted to make sure
I
that
agree.
that if he had discretion, if it was not going to be fair to our client, he wasn't going to do it. But if he had discretion, he was going to err on the side of letting the family members get that case out, and not hobbling them like that. But I think on the main important rulings that we needed, and that were fair under the law and right under the law, he did. With the mistrial thing where he excluded the witness, we didn't want the mistrial. Obviously,
Yeah.
we wanted that
Yeah.
jury. We didn't want the mistrial. My mother texted me and she's like, "I can't believe he's not granting a mistrial." I'm like, "Mom, I hope he does not. I
Yeah.
don't want him to."
I mean, unless it's a mistrial with prejudice, but even
Right,
towards
but
the end, when there was the question of excluding, Nick Hill,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Well, I'm not doing that." I'm like, my thought was, this judge can read the writing on the wall. He sees where the jury's going,
Yes, I agree.
and he doesn't want the headline to be "Defense wins after excluding key witness."
Right.
He wants the headline to be, officer is
Well,
vindicated.
we'll maybe ask him at some point. I think he wanted us to be able to use it in closing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
think about that. You exclude them. So look, all these factors, these human factors, we call them, they weigh on judges. They do. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
Jason, I thought, was masterful when he said, "Judge, by law, we have to ask for a mistrial. But in the case you don't, that's like saying, hey, we're conceding in the alternative. Don't mistrial. We have to preserve our error, but we really like that jury. We liked it. And obviously, thank God it worked out for us. We didn't want to do this again. We don't get a second chance to present your defense the first time because they totally misread what our defense was going to be.
They thought we were going to do the coward defense. So when they picked the jury, they thought, so in Texas, you have a defense of duress, which means that you were so afraid for your own life that you failed to act because you were so scared that you were going to die. And, when he did it in the jury selection, I was kind of looking at Nico and I felt weird because I was like, we never even thought to do that because we know what the evidence is and we know that he did all of these things. So we're not going to say he was afraid because he clearly was willing to die at certain parts of this thing. He was willing to die and was okay doing so. But they totally misread it because they thought there was no way that he would have any defense other than that.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people in the general public don't realize like how much of a mixed thing a mistrial is for the defense. Because in most places, you don't have to tell the prosecutor like what evidence you have, what you're holding. And so once you run the trial once, you've shown your cards, and then you're going to play the poker game again.
You're exactly right.
That's right.
You're exactly right. It's a huge advantage for us. And I mean, that and reasonable doubt are like beyond a reasonable doubt are the biggest advantages we have as defense. And once they see it all, they would have designed it completely different. But I'll tell you a little inside baseball when we approached at one point, because y'all couldn't hear it. At the end of kind of Nick Hill, after all this stuff, the second day he came back and after the weekend, and at some point we go up there on an objection, and Judge Harrell goes, "I want this witness off the stand." And so we were like, "Okay, we got it." Because he was just like, it's done. Like, I'm sick of this back and forth.
Stop. He's already dead.
Exactly. And he, he's kind of communicating that like this, like, what are we doing here with this horse that's been beaten, dead, skinned, eaten?
Well, I was kind of like, this is looking from an outside perspective, like this is going to be a giant appeal issue because suddenly at the 11th hour when you're there cross-examining, now he's like, now we're on time limits. You guys have to wrap it up. And I'm like, that could be bad.
Well, anyway, and we pushed it. And I said, "Judge, under due process, constitutional rights." And then he saw what happened on the redirect. And he said, "Judge, he brought up something different that's nowhere. He goes, stick to the redirect." And he gave me that extra time.
Yeah.
And so, which the judge set the parameter by saying no more time, knowing that he probably was going to push back, was going to give us something if something came up.
And the thing is, I don't think the judge would have unless that was opened up. But he's fair. Like, he was being fair. And he said, "Yep, they opened up a new issue.
Yeah.
Go. You get to, because it wouldn't be fair not to let you go at it. So, and it also shows that you guys built a lot of trust with the judge too.
Yes.
Like, the judge clearly trusted you not to take that redirect into the weeds or whatever else.
Right.
He's like, I know they're going to do what I told them to. I trust them on that. So that, you also have the third member of your trio, Hillier, I believe. I'm
Gary.
awful with names. Yeah.
From England.
Is he here?
I was wondering, like, he seemed to do really well on the gun stuff, and I was like, it's rare that you hear a guy with like a British accent who can talk guns.
So he was a Bobby in London. So he was a police officer at the Metropolitan Police Force for 10 years or 15. And he actually trained firearms in London. And, he talks to us about it. And he says, in London, because they have a lot of terror stuff, and they're always training for that. So they're always training entries. They're always training, firearms and big guns and how to use them and all the tactics. So he's actually really good at it. And he's kind of our secret weapon when it comes to that, because we can put him in there and he's got a British accent, but he's going right along with, the witnesses.
Yeah, the British perspective on that is interesting because they're like, we don't always carry guns, but when we need to get a gun, we're going for the MP5. And I'm
yes, yes.
Okay,
It's true. It's true.
That's a different world.
And they do it, and he's been involved. He's been in those situations. He's been involved in breaches and extractions, like all of that stuff. And so he does have it is a great perspective. It's one of the reasons that we were lucky to have him on this case, is because he could give us that perspective. Because Nico's trained with it, and I told you I don't really have anything to do with it, but Gary's actually been there in a live situation where that stuff is happening in London, and and he would say, he told us, he said, when Adrian did going down that hall, going to certain death, he said, I would have been hugging that wall and trying to find a nook. And Adrian's just walking straight in with the gun, ready for the shooter. I mean, the guy's shooting at him through the wall, and he's just backing up and not leaving. And Gary's like, I'm going to go to the first. I'm trying to go to the first place that I can, get in and get cover.
In preparing to cover this, I actually spoke to a guy who does some of the breach stuff, and he's like, I wouldn't have been in that hallway.
Yeah.
That hallway was a death trap. I would not have been in that hallway.
No. A lot of people say that. We were trying to point out that he was willing to make his wife a widow. He was willing to go down there for those kids, knowing that at any moment, if that round comes his direction, it's what it does to a body. It's going to.
But also, that's why I made that point, because we can what if this all day long. But what if those doors were locked? Separate analysis. What if he still got in? But then the classroom door was locked. And then what if those three officers, Coronado, Saucedo, and Mendoza, actually followed the fire, went in the west door, followed him in, and then now the shooter's in the fatal funnel and a disadvantage. Yeah. And then they're cutting the pie, and then they have an advantage on him with more weapons and more backup. So, I mean, we can what if it all day long, but the only one that doesn't get the benefit of what ifs is Adrian, and then when we brought it down to that minute 48 seconds, we thought that was very reasonable, and it was factual based off their indictment. So when he got there versus when the shooter got into the room, that's not 3.5 minutes. It's definitely not 77 minutes. That's a different case. It's a minute and 48 seconds, and the jury saw that.
Well, and the other what if on this one that I think is fairly easy to think about is if the monster had stepped outside that classroom door with the rifle and fired down that hallway, Adrian Gonzalez's name wouldn't have been on an indictment. It would have been on a plaque.
Yep.
It would have been on like a float on a parade.
Yep.
Because, they would have been saying, look at his heroism.
Yep.
And the only reason why they're not celebrating his heroism is that he had the audacity to live.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
That's a great point.
It is a great point. Any one of those officers died, it would be a plaque. It would be a parade. It would be celebrating his end of watch and handing his widow a flag. And that's, he was willing to do all that. And that's one of the things that I've never understood once I got through the case, because I was like you, honestly, when the case came in, and of course, we represent a lot of police officers, and we believe in law enforcement. We believe in what they do. And the case came in, but I'd heard everything too. And I was like, I told Nico, I said, this is going to be hard. But all we had to do was get into it and talk to him as a human being. And once he explained what he did and we looked at the evidence, it was like, why are they charging this guy? I mean, of all the guys, why are they charging him? And that kind of came out too, once the trial came out.
I absolutely know that feeling of like a client comes in the door and you're going, oh, yeah. This is going to be rough.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to hate this one. And it's nice when it turns around on that because, I've been struck by just how much of a humble, soft-spoken man he is. And his ability to sit in trial. There were moments when he had emotion, and he does a good job of covering it. But the one emotion I never saw from him, as the camera was focused on him a whole bunch, there are moments where he sort of did this because he's, dealing with, but I never saw him angry.
Yeah.
And I never saw him even as you have people up there, saying most horrible things about him, I never saw him angry. I never saw him any of those things. And it's hard to get a client to not show their, show emotion like that.
I mean, you can talk to him about that, but then in reality, it happens. And I think the closest we can say that he got to anger is when he saw Randy Hill standing there.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, he was shocked.
He'd never seen it before. The trial was the first time he had ever seen that Randy, the person that got the call, when he saw it through the dash cam of Coronado, and he saw him standing there. We went to lunch. We had a lunch break, and he said it took him the entire lunch break to compose himself because that was the time that he was like he had never known that the person who was supposed to be there just stayed back there on the perimeter.
Yeah, and that guy's setting up a perimeter and all of that, but
yeah. I mean, that's not the training,
really
right?
well with that in close.
I mean, that's what they were hitting us with is that the training says go to the gunfire. Like a lot of people didn't do that, and that's one of the things I said in close too. Is like if the training is that you're one guy and you have to go to the door and try to breach the door. If none of them did that, then none of them are following that training. But that means the training's bad because you can't ask an officer to go and die at the door for no reason, like without any chance of success. You have to have a chance of success in order to ask an officer to do that. And there was no chance of success until they got that equipment. But I mean, a different world, right? If they would have had all the breaching tools and a shield right there in an office on campus, and they would just run right to that office and they would go right in on a stick. Because that stick, it took 2.5 minutes. Like you get them lined up, you get everything in, breach the door, and go in. I mean, they would have been in 5 minutes.
It's hopefully the new school has that set up, and
in all schools, right? Like all schools, if you're going to have in an age where people can buy ARs, which they can when they're 18 years old, and you don't always know that they're, you know, psychotic or evil like this person was, then you're going to have to give the officers the tools that they need in order to defend. You know, you're training the teachers and the kids to do what they need to do, but they can't do all of those things. The officer has to be able to have shield, has to be able to have AR. They have to have the same firepower, and they have to be able to shoot from the same range. Otherwise, they'll always be outgunned. They have to have rifle rated vests. You know, all those things.
Well, when they're talking like, oh yeah, you know, he could have had like a 50-yard shot on a handgun, I'm going,
yeah,
that's a tough shot. There's
That's
people
a
who can
tough
make
shot.
it.
Yeah.
And it's not a fast shot.
It's a slow lineup. It's a slow, and meanwhile you've got the other guy with an AR who's going to be much faster at drawing that target.
Yep.
And it's a tough shot. Like, you know, for me at the range, with all the time in the world and being able to be like, you know, let's do a little impromptu Zen meditation and like get the heart rate down.
Right.
You're not going to be at heart rate, you know, flat. You're going to be breathing all over. You hear the one officer in his body cam. He's, you know, he sounds like he's dying, and that's what you're going to be like trying to shoot. You're going to, you know, at that point, you're just putting rounds down and like praying.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just stunned at some of the things they were saying, like, oh yeah, you could just peek. I'm like, you could just peek on a guy who might be sitting there with a rifle.
That's right. That's
like,
right. That's right.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, there were times when I was just kind of shouting at the screen going like, you do that. Like you go.
But
peek, you go.
and I, you know, I think you can tell my heart when I say this. Most people that don't know tactics are ignorant to that. How many people have you heard over your career say, why don't you shoot the gun out? Why don't you shoot him in the leg? You don't train that way because you have gross motor skills, you have nerve stress, all kinds of things affecting you, auditory exclusion, perception distortion, tunnel vision, everything that's going on there. And so people don't understand that. So that's why it was so critical for us. And we had planned, and it worked out, thankfully, to turn so many of their witnesses into our witnesses.
Yes.
We had to. And that's why it was so critical, because you're dealing with people. One of the jurors in the top, Kim, I think I told you earlier, said, hey, you're a gun guy, right? And so he knew it. And so he has some gun knowledge, but the vast majority of people don't. And so you really have to use the government's witnesses against them.
I mean, you watch videos of like tactical breach practice with soldiers, and they'll have one guy sitting in a corner take out 8 people, one after the other, because they walk in and the guy just hits them with the ammunition, and he's like, I'm out, and it looks kind of clownish until you actually like, you know, I've never done the ammunition training, but I've done like airsoft stuff. I know that you got a guy in a room like that.
It's hard to go.
You have a far less than 50-50 shot at taking that guy if you know exactly where he's sitting. And if you don't know where he's sitting, your chances are about 0.
Yeah.
You know, because while you're trying to figure out where he's sitting, he's putting 3 rounds on you. And
Well, that's why Joe Vasquez, who breached, he said when he came in, he went and looked to that right corner because he thought, based on just training and everything else, he thought that if you were going to be, you know, laying a trap, that you'd be in that corner. Turned out he was directly across the door, you know, in a closet. But he said, I thought I was dead because when I came in and I went right, he said, I looked over to that corner and I thought the guy would be right there. And if he was, then Vasquez would have been dead. You know, like everybody who split right, and then the shield guy's already gone in first, and so he's getting shot in the back. You know, I mean, it would have been bad.
Well, and they were taking rounds on the shield. They're taking rounds on the helmet. You know, you just think of what happens if there's no shield there.
Right.
First guy goes in, he takes, you know, rounds, he goes down, and then it's just going down the line.
Yep.
It's
Dutch in a
you
barrel.
know, 30-round magazine. He's not going to be done anytime soon. He's got more rounds than they've got officers in that stack. So I really want to thank you guys, because as I said, it was an absolute pleasure to watch you in action.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I took notes at several points of like things you were doing where I'm like, I need to do that. Like I need to steal this. And
Do it.
but also just, you know, when you talk to students or young lawyers about how to cross-examine difficult witnesses, you know, children, victims of serious, you know, whatever, you know, and you say like, you cannot cross-examine them like you'd cross-examine, you know, a cop who's being deceptive, or, you know, somebody's like, you know, angry ex-employer or something like that. Now I've got a video that I can be like, this is how you do it. You know, look, because, you know, Ms. Flores, who had a bunch of things wrong, and, you know, you have the job of correcting her on those. And you could have gone in and been like, okay, we're going to do the hard impeachment. And the jury would have hated you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
They would have.
But I was, you know, just watching and you got this wrong, right? And it's not your fault. And she's like, yes.
Yeah.
Well, okay, now they've heard that, you know, she's not a bad person, but she's made mistakes. Maybe her evidence is not always, you know, the most reliable on some of these points. And so where she says something and the physical evidence says something else, we should, you know, and I'm going, it's a rare skill, because I have watched a lot of lawyers who couldn't switch off of like Bulldog.
Right.
And I think it has a lot, you know, it does credit to your skill. It does credit to the profession. It does credit to your faith.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Well, thank you. It means a lot to me, brother. And especially coming from you. When Jason told me about you and
I said, man, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's funny as hell. So
Yeah.
I
So
said, I like this guy because we watch you guys who are doing this, and so I'm watching to see because something will happen in the courtroom that's not necessarily obvious, and I'm watching to see the ones that are able to go no, this is why they're doing that, and when it is why we're doing that, I go, yeah, that guy knows what he's doing. So and I appreciate you doing it because a lot of people are learning about what we do and why we do these things as defense attorneys, and so you're a credit to our profession.
Yeah,
as well.
thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity. And we're humbled by
Oh, thank you. And I'm I feel like I'm getting the better of the deal, if I can put it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But no, and yeah, if I'm ever down in Texas, I'll shoot you a line and
drop
say,
by.
hey,
Yeah.
let's go to the range. Let's go grab a
love
drink,
it.
whatever you're down to.
Yeah,
And
absolutely, we love it.
I'm the designated shooter. He's the designated
I'm the
drinker.
designated drinker,
So
so
you
I'll drink, y'all shoot, and then Ian, you and I will have a drink after.
fair enough. Also, Nico, if you're ever inclined to shoot with some, I think I know some people out in Texas who own some fun stuff. If you're ever inclined. So maybe I'll reach out and be
You got
like,
my number.
hey,
So let me know. And if you ever need us on the show again, any commentary, please reach out.
I may
Be
absolutely do that because,
Please.
as I said, you guys are on the top of your game, and I've watched a lot of trials. I've watched a lot of trials with really excellent lawyers, and the lawyering I saw was absolute top notch.
Thank you,
And
sir.
Thank you.
that's including trials like watching the Depp trial, where I'm sure that his legal team, I'm sure that was like a 7-figure defense.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
when I'm saying top of the game, I mean it. And
Thanks, Ian.
so
I appreciate it. One of the things you actually pointed out in my closing that I was interested that you pointed it out is you said, look, the guy's not using any notes. He's just talking to the jury. He's having a conversation with them. Because I've noticed that some of these other cases where I watch, the lawyers will they'll kind of read their closing, or they'll kind of read and turn the page and read. And, we just don't ever do that. We never have. And so I guess that is the thing though, and because you had pointed it out to say look, it's different. And I agree with that. I mean, that you have to have that conversation with the jury.
it's so much more effective than if you're sitting there reading all the things.
Yeah.
I learned this from a lawyer whose his go-to move was to take his notes and then set them down near the jury and and then just walk away from them.
Yeah.
And he did that kind of on purpose to be like a break where he's like, hey, hey,
Hey, there's
What
Gary.
are you doing?
Well, Ian said he was interested because you had a lot of gun knowledge. He was interested in your background. So I told him a little bit about it, but you can tell him.
Yeah, so my name's Gary Hillier. I'm not from Texas originally. You might be able to tell that, right?
just a little bit.
Yeah,
Subtle
East
hint.
Texas, Far East, right?
Texas.
Far East Texas. So this is my second go round at a career. I was a specialist firearms officer in London with the Metropolitan Police. So actually, I just brought a photograph in that I found in my office from 2005. So I was on the equivalent of a national SWAT team. We used to do stuff with the military, and I did all the stuff, the bombings in London in 2007. I was part of all the response to that. So we got invited to some good parties. So I've got a bit of knowledge about this stuff, right? It's a bit dated and from a different country, but
It was still quite impressive because most lawyers, when they start talking about gun things, they start falling on their face.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of lawyers get absolutely humiliated by experts because the expert starts talking and the lawyer's like, so, this is like a bolt action firearm. And the officer goes, no, this is a semi-automatic. That's not the bolt. And then the rest of the cross-examination is tainted by that moment where the expert gets to just dunk on them.
Yeah.
And they can never regain that stride with the jury or the judge or whoever's. And so watching it, I was like, this guy knows his stuff. I don't know. And I wasn't sure if you guys just really read the hell out of things before you got in or if you had knowledge. And I was really curious about that because it's a different, it was really a pleasure to watch, all of these things because, you're avoiding sort of the pitfalls and traps and you're talking about tactical decisions. And I'm like, yes, this makes sense. I've never done the breaching. I've never done any of that. I can't claim to be, a badass in any capacity, but I've had the pleasure of being able to talk to some people who, who have and who are, and, get there. And so when I hear the same things, I was like, okay, good. When you guys initially brought up, and this is what we call a fatal funnel, right? I'm like, okay, they're, because candidly, there are legal teams I could have imagined that would have gone in there and just not understood that concept.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
Ian said that, he said people from England, he said they're funny because they don't really carry around guns, but when they do, it's like the biggest and the baddest.
I mean, we almost got double advantage, right? Because they hear me talking, they think this guy can't know anything about guns, and they say, well, actually, what? It's confusing. It's like you can see it sometimes. If they're honest, right? The officers will be like, it's going on. They're looking at you like, what?
Yeah, they do.
There was, I forget which witness it was, but you were cross-examining him and then you started sort of dropping terminology and I could see him do the attitude adjustment in real time as he was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. I can't BS him. I have to, and I could just watch the change in his demeanor when you sort of drop some knowledge on him. And I was like, being able to do that is a skill and not everybody has it. So
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad he got to make it. He got to come in because he was like, he said, "Where's Gary? Where's the other one?"
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
yeah,
Gary.
thank you so much. Thanks for.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll end the recording and
You're a cunt.
You're a cunt. You're a cunt. You're a cunt.
You're a cunt.
You're a cunt. You're a cunt.
You're a cunt.
That was an excellent, excellent interview. Hello, Bex. What an interview. So, Wicked, the guy that joined him was a third attorney. So, I know you didn't cover this, but I thought that was one of the best interviews I've heard in a very long time. So, Gary is from Britain, and I think he went over to America in 2017, became a lawyer, and was part of the team there today. I thought I'll be honest with you, I've been pussyfooting around there, several times, but I think that's the best attorney team I've ever seen. That is the best team I think I've seen. We've seen some great attorneys. But for me, those attorneys are the best attorneys I've ever seen. So, I understand most people won't agree with me because everyone will say Jackson and Etty, and they're excellent. But having seen those in action, they're highly impressive. Very, very impressive. I was just listening to it all. I thoroughly enjoyed the interview. But thank you, Rondell, always looking out for me. Thank you very much. I know the Patriots are covering at the start. I can't believe it. Seahawks starting 4.5 points favourites. They probably got more points. Seahawks deserve to be the favourites. They are the better team going in, but I prefer to be the underdog anyway. It's a one-off game, and as long as we get the offense going, we'll be in with a good shout, I suspect. So let's go. I can't wait. Great interview, Lovren. He's the best interviewer, or one of, out there. And I was saying, Spacey Stacey, that there's a reason why everyone goes to him, because he's well respected universally. So I can't say that about all attorneys. Some people like some attorneys, not others, but he's well liked by all, by viewers. I mean, by all. I love him. Right, let me get this one up now. This is Adrian's interview. So let me get this one. This is a 9-minute interview, 9:38 interview, just so you can see this if you haven't seen it.
So, Mr. LaHood.
So, hang on, let me start it again. Right, if we're ready, here we go.
To what do you attribute this not guilty verdict?
To a pursuit of truth, to being zealous advocates, to being humble when it was appropriate, to being aggressive when it was inappropriate, but always having a strategy moving forward, knowing there's a scripture that says that the truth will set you free, and I believe that stuff happened with Adrian.
Was this a case of scapegoating? Was this a case of scapegoating?
We didn't say that originally. We wanted to present that case without calling it scapegoating. The jury got there. They got the feeling when we spoke with them after.
What did that mean?
Well, they saw gaps in the government's case. There was gaps in the case. They didn't see the logical consistency in some of the issues. They really liked that we brought out more evidence. They seemed like we brought out more evidence at times than the government did. And I asked them, I said, were we too aggressive at times? Were we not aggressive enough? And they said, no, your temperament on both of you was appropriate. And so they just saw the gaps in the case, and they really didn't understand what the government was trying to say about Adrian's behavior during a certain period of time.
And when there's scapegoating, does that mean that other officers escape justice, prosecution?
For me, scapegoating is someone takes the blame for something. Now, we don't have to attribute that something to individual people, but they're trying to, our position, one of our many themes was that Adrian was at the bottom of the totem pole. And so it was easier to blame him because he happened to be the first officer on the scene. If you ignore all the behaviors he did in that moment, and he was always going to danger, and we presented that to the jury, and when they saw that, they came back with a verdict that we felt fit the facts.
You don't like to say you won this case?
There's no winners. I mean, there's precious babies that are left this earth, and there's families that are mourning. We understand that, we acknowledge it. So there's no celebration in the win. There's a celebration in vindication. Whenever truth is illuminated, then people should celebrate that, understanding that two things can be true at the same time. There can be people mourning tremendous tragedy and loss, and we're never going to make light of that. Then also celebrating the fact, or at least acknowledging the fact that somebody has been set free of obligation.
Jason, you addressed the issue of the chilling effect that a guilty verdict would have had.
Yes.
What did you mean?
Yeah. So what I was doing was responding first to the prosecutor's argument. And that's pretty typical that a prosecutor will say, send a message. But the problem is that in this particular case, you're not going to be able to convict Adrian and then officers will then respond perfectly, because they're always going to be in these scenarios and these situations where there'll be confusion, there'll be stress, there'll be all of these things going on. And if you don't understand the situation perfectly, then things like this can happen. But that verdict that they were asking for, the guilty verdict, would not make officers be perfect. What it would do is say, in Adrian's situation, he went to the danger, he went to the person, and it took him on the other side of the building from the shooter, which caused the confusion, which caused him not to be able to understand at the time. So the only people that weren't sitting in Adrian's position were the people who didn't go into the danger. And so what the message would be sending is don't go into the danger. Don't go confront somebody you think is the shooter, because if you do, and it happens to take you in a place that causes confusion, then all of a sudden, you're going to be in Adrian's chair and you're going to be prosecuted. And that's the point I was trying to make is you want people to do what Adrian did, which is do everything that he could in his power to try to stop this man from doing what he did.
Out of almost 400 law enforcement officers, only 2 are charged?
Yes, sir.
What does that tell us?
I don't know. I can't speak for her. I'm not going to get into her mind. What it tells me is that they want someone to take blame for this. And the person responsible for this horrific act is no longer on this earth. And I believe he's been judged eternally. So I think Adrian was an easy target, unfortunately.
Why?
Well, because he was the low man on the totem pole. He was the first on the scene, so you can distinguish him in that fact. There was a period of time that if you don't look at all the facts contextually, well, then you can look at Adrian and think that he did something wrong or didn't act enough. When you really look at the situation in the totality of the circumstances, you see that Adrian went to the danger initially, and then further went to the danger when he was one of the first 5 officers that went into that building.
Adrian, take me back to that day when you first got to the school. There's a call, shootings at Robb Elementary.
You know, just the call came out. Initially, it was a call. It was the accident. The accident that got my attention. And then, you know, and we talked about jurisdictions and stuff like that. So, you know, once they said they're running to the school, then it was the school district issue, you know, regardless whether wreck or not, you know, and, you know, shots fired, you know, I go, you know, and the last broadcast that I hear is they're running towards the school. Didn't get a description, didn't get nothing. You know, when I pull up to that crash site and I drive in and I see that now, you know, after the day after I did my interview, I could, you know, I said it was a woman, you know, I knew it was a teacher because I've already acknowledged that, you know, through process. But at the time when I see her running, I didn't know it was a man or a girl. So I go to her, you know, I go to them, you know, and confront them, you know.
Melanie Flores?
Yes, Melanie Flores, you know. And, you know, she's hysterical. She's telling me. And, you know, as soon as I get there, the rounds start going off. And like I said, I have 5 other buildings around me. So everything's just echoing everywhere, you know. Yeah, it's just commotions. Everything's just going through your mind and processing. You know, she's yelling at you. You're trying to get information, relay it. Because like I said, I'm the first one on scene. You know, I can hear everybody. I just don't know. I can hear the sirens. I can hear everything. I just can't see nobody.
And John, I think it's important, though, but the timing matters. Because when he saw that round come out of the building, which he said in his interview, it was closer to when Sergeant Page was coming up. And that's when he knew for sure. So he was going to Sergeant Page. And then you saw in Coronado's video that as soon as they came up again, they heard another round of shooting. And then they realized they're in, and they both went in there on their own. And so the jury saw that. And they specifically mentioned Coronado's video that Sergeant Page and Adrian ran in on their own. And they were in that, we heard the term, the fatal funnel, which is a very dangerous situation to be in. And they did that. So the timing matters. And if you don't look at the context, and if you don't look at everything, then you can put Adrian in a scenario where he's acting or not acting in a way that he should have maybe earlier on. And it wasn't. It was very later on in the situation.
Do you feel you're being made a scapegoat?
When the videos came out and started playing, yes, I realized that, you know, they handpicked me. You know, this was, you know, they had they had an excuse for everybody else. Well, they did this, they did that, but I had to do this. I had to do that. Everybody else, their train of thought was perfect. They did what they were supposed to do, but I did it. That's when I felt like, yeah, I was pinpointed to be chosen to do this. I did the best that I could with the information I was getting, and if you've never been in a situation like that, you can sit here and tell me all you want about what I would have done or what you would have done. Until you're in that mix, you can't tell me anything different,
Adrian, did you ever see the shooter?
No, never saw him.
Never laid eyes on him?
Never laid eyes on him.
And the prosecution didn't dispute that.
Yeah.
Never in question, John.
It was never
in question. But yet there was other officers that laid eyes on him. There was another officer that asked permission to shoot him. There was another officer that was on the same side, one of three, that had a long rifle that had the ability and the opportunity to maybe distract, deter, and prevent or impede the shooter from going in that building.
Why aren't they in court?
That's a question that we can't answer.
Why weren't they charged?
We don't know.
You never saw the shooter.
Never saw him.
And yet the families obviously understand. The families. How tough is it for you to go back to Uvalde and your family?
It's very hard. I left after 50 years living in Uvalde.
Born and raised there.
Born and raised there. Worked 18 years with the Head Start program as a teacher. The last class I was graduating at the high school, that was the last group of kids that I taught at the Head Start.
And now you're a pariah?
Man. Did soccer for 18 years, ref soccer for 18 years, coach for 17 years. Worked for the Boys and Girls Club. Working with kids was a passion for me. So when I got the opportunity to come back to the school as an officer, I took it. And unfortunately, it's not the same.
Still painful.
Yes, pain. I understand what the family's going through, and it's hard if I tell them anything, I know it's not gonna make them feel any better. But this is a struggle for me, for my family, to get up and leave. It's hard.
You're praying for them still.
And I'm still praying for them, every day when I go to work, I pray for them. I pray for them and their families, and not just them, but the community,
You can never go home again?
Never go home.
And that's painful.
Yes.
And then, John, we can't ignore the fact that there are some families that their children are never going to go home either, right? And
Well-
so there's pain to go around, and that's why you said the community needs to heal.
Well, I cut off there, but that was emotional. I know that some people criticized him for not showing emotion. Well, you can see how much it hurts him. He's left Uvalde. He's left there. He's left everything, his whole community. That Adrian is, his life has changed forever. The pain that he's been through, I know, I understand the family's gone through pain, but to target just this person, he would have lived in pain no matter what, but to drag him through the court system, that's what makes it all disgrace. So why is my eyeglasses all shining? I don't get it. Man, I'm glad we covered the trial. It was frustrating, but I'm glad that we did cover it. As I say, like Runkle said, shout out to Runkle again. Awesome stream and interview. Majority of people came into this trial viewing it as, he was a coward. And I think if you watch the videos, you're going to have that conclusion. And to be honest, when Jason said about the police officer sanitizing his hands, I remember when I saw that a couple of years ago, I was like, what the hell is he doing? Why is he sanitizing his hands for? That's a disgrace. This is a shooting and you're sanitizing your hands? But the explanation of, because they've just been informed they're going to be handling children, casualties. I'm like, oh, crap. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that just holds out truth of what we said at the start of this stream. We can't just take what we see And Nico said it. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he doesn't believe anything he hears, and he only believes half of what he sees. And I thought, that's a great way of looking at it. What a great way of looking at it. Never believe anything you hear, but only believe half, and believe half of what you see. I thought, yeah, that's a great way of thinking about it. And I don't blame anyone for coming into this trial, because I think it's human nature. You've seen the videos. You would blame it on this guy because he was made out that he was such a coward. He didn't go into the building, but we now know that was not true. And I'm also glad that everybody changed their minds very quickly on it. You know, so. And again, it's not saying that no one's at fault. There's so many people at fault here. And that's the whole point. He shouldn't have been prosecuted and blamed for the whole thing. So, but yeah, anyway, I wanted to sort of put an end to the Adrian Gonzalez trial with those nuggets. But I agree, Rhonda, sad all round. And to see that emotion off him just now was, you know, you can see how impactful it's been on him and his life and his family's life as well. We talk about the families of the people that died. His family as well, Adrian's family has had to be taken through all this as well. I'm not sure if he's got children, but he's got a wife. He's had to move out of the community because he probably is hated in the community. There were no winners in this trial. No winners whatsoever. And if anything, to a certain extent, it made it worse. But how about that family as well? That Nico said, messaged them, emailed them, and said, "Thank you for taking on the trial, and we believe justice was served," or whatever the words were. I don't remember the words were, but they think that they believe the right outcome came out of it, that he was found not guilty. And that's a family that lost a child. That says a lot, you know. And I understand other family members will be still mad and they will still blame Adrian no matter what. And I blame the prosecution for that. But yeah, so that's where we're at with that trial anyway. I'm probably going to end early in a little bit here now, but just because I need to go and start researching. As I say, there's a trial tomorrow that I don't know if we are going to cover or not. That is the Dee Warner murder, and her husband Dale Warner and his son has also been arrested in association with it. I think his son, because his son was arrested for helping. Well, so I think he had knowledge of the murder and hid evidence or something, I believe. But we'd have to look at that. If we do look into that, I might do a little stream beforehand because I think jury's been sworn in. Oh, sorry, chosen tomorrow. So I don't know. I'll come on tomorrow. We'll do something tomorrow. I just don't know what tomorrow. But I wanted to recap today. Celebrate the Pats, which is obviously good. Is that trial in Michigan? Yes, it is, Katie. It's in Michigan. It's in Michigan. That's why I don't know if they're going to show it or not. So that's the problem. I don't know if we're going to be, if the court's going to show it. They've shown a couple of hearings, but they've not shown. They've not said if it's showing the trial or not. We're in limbo a little bit because Sarah Grace Patrick, that is obviously been pushed on. Aaron Spencer, who knows when that's going to be. You know, I saw a random clip about the detective fleeing to avoid testifying. Yes, there's some stuff like that. But again, I've not tried to look into too much of that because I want to know the plot, but I don't want to know too much details before going into it. So I might do a little something on it. But yeah, there is a clip about a cop fleeing. But again, it goes back to what Nico said. I don't want to prejudge this person. Hello, Sasmas. How are you, my darling? I don't want to prejudge, because if you watch everything about Dale Warner, you're going to say he's guilty no matter what. That's why I want to make sure that we don't go too far into it, Also, as I said to you earlier on, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up. Courtney Clenny's one I want to dive into before long. But we'll see how that pans out. Then there's obviously some other ones. The one in Florida as well. I want to do Microsoft Bridigan that died. I want to cover that one. But yeah, again, I'm not covering a lot of the Massachusetts ones anymore. I'm going to move on. There's a few I might cover, like Aiden's, and then Lindsay Clancy maybe is another one. That's going to be a tough one. But yeah, I'm not going to do Karen's hearings and stuff like that. I wish her all the best of them, but I want to concentrate on some criminal trials that and with defendants that need proper justice. So that's where my head is going to go from now on, or these streams are going to go from now on. Yeah, that's all I have really. I don't have too much more. Oh, actually, no, I'm not going to do it. Oh, Joe, I will do it now. So I'll finish off with this. This is a hearing from Michigan. I agree, Mark. Yeah, I don't want to get into it. That's why, I'd rather do other stuff. And also because there's about 100 other YouTubers covering it and stuff. I just don't want to. I don't have any interest in it anymore, to be quite honest. And that's not a slight on Karen or anything. It's more of it's not really the direction I want to go with it. And all the hate and drama that's out there. So one thing I got left to play, I'll play this, I will do it here now. Thanks and appreciate it. I'm not sure what you appreciate him, but you're always appreciative. I love it. True. Civil hearings on Zoom are hard to watch, hard to hear. Don't blame me. Again, there's so many other streams doing them, so it's totally fine. There's going to be, as I say, you all know the YouTubers that will be covering them, so feel free to watch them. Obviously, I'm not saying no one else needs to watch them. I decide, I've chosen not to cover them. They're not for me anymore. Right, I'll do this. This was for ex-Michigan football coach Sharon Moore. He was in court on Friday, I believe it was. I've watched this already. It's about 15 minutes, so we'll play it. I'll play 1.25. Again, this is just a typical hearing. He gets pushed on, but just so you are aware of what's going on with it, because I'm sort of covering this as well. So here we go.
He'll go right up. They will go right up. Is that their row 3 and black? They're all black. Are they coming down this way or that way?
Also, just to clarify as well, I'm not saying that no one should watch it or cover it or anything. That's just a decision I've made. I decided not to cover it. It's not my wheelhouse to cover Karen Read anymore. She's got her freedom, and I hope she wins the world. I hope she gets paid millions upon millions. I hope she gets everything. And if she ever gets criminally charged for anything in the future, I'm sure we cover it. But yeah, I'd rather cover other stuff. And also, I want to, I respect the fact that most of you are from Mass. I respect that. But at the same time, I'm respectful of the fact that if you decide to leave and watch another channel, I'm respectful of that as well. Everyone has choices to watch what they want to do. I just want to remove myself from that situation and just, plow on and watch this. But I fully appreciate that others will not feel that way and want to watch every hearing, everything. And I respect that. And I'll just say there's tons of streamers out there. So, I understand the interest in it. Just it's not with me right now.
So, court does call the case of the People's State of Michigan versus Jerome Moore. Counsel, please state your appearances for the record.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Katie Rismersky for the people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Ellen Michaels on behalf of Sharon Moore, who is present in court.
Your name, sir?
Sharon Moore.
All right, thank you. All right. Date, time set for probable cause conference. What do we need to do today?
I've had the opportunity to talk with the prosecutor. There is outstanding discovery that we need to have before we can proceed to exam. So we're asking to adjourn the probable cause conference for 30 days to receive that discovery. And the discovery, we're talking about our phone records and Title IX documents.
Okay. Are the people going to be in possession of Title IX documents or have access to those? I guess.
It's a very good question, Your Honor. My best understanding.
I usually ask good ones.
You do.
Go ahead.
This court always does. My best understanding at the moment is that this is not a Title IX investigation per se. My information is coming in real time, as they also say. It was a complaint apparently to the Office of the General Counsel. I have just moments before we came onto the record been informed that there is no written report. That is my best understanding. Whether or not there is some other kind of investigative information that exists has yet to be ferreted out. That effort, that process is ongoing. Ms. Michaels is correct in the aspect of phone records are being sought. All of the, just so the record is clear, all of the evidence and discovery that we have has been furnished to defense, but the investigation is ongoing. Okay. Whether or not 30 days is sufficient is a live and good question.
Okay, well, let me just make sure that I'm clear. Whether 30 days would be sufficient for phone records is questionable, or for everything that Ms. Michaels indicated?
I believe my thought was everything, but I think that also applies to the phone records. Quite frankly, Judge, I don't know what that timeline is. I can try to find that timeline out and communicate that to the court and counsel, but I don't have that.
Okay, and I guess I'm not, what I don't want to get to, I guess, is a point where we're at a certain point, it may be ready to be set for exam or do whatever, and everything that these records, I'm presuming, Ms. Michaels, that you're saying from the U of M, that are records from the U of M.
Correct. It's our understanding that when you just step back a touch from the actual incident, there were statements made and things done earlier that day to the U of M, statements made by the complaining witness that are going to be important to this investigation because her credibility will always be at issue, and different statements she made to different people will need to be evaluated. So those statements are important.
Okay, I get that, but those, I mean, aren't those documents or statements that you can get on your own, or?
That's a,
yeah,
I don't.
Depends on one's view of life.
But I take no issue with discovery flowing through us.
Yeah, right. I don't have a problem with that either. It's just I'm trying to figure out if the request is made. So, because are you attempting to try to obtain those documents?
I am.
Okay. And then once you obtain them, if you do obtain them, you're going to inform counsel or provide them to counsel.
Immediately.
Gotcha.
One more thing, Your Honor, for due diligence sake, maybe I should submit to the court a subpoena for signature, and of course I'll serve the prosecutor, and I can also submit a subpoena requesting those records, having them returned to the court.
Well, having the results come to the court.
Correct.
Okay, and then we would. Okay, I don't have a problem with that if we're the go-between that it comes here and then goes out. I don't necessarily have that. So unless there's some legal objection to it, if you submit a subpoena to the court, I will sign off on it. I guess try to get this so we can get this thing moving. 30 days. So There's also, and just so that's a discovery issue. Today, I guess that was filed a motion to quash.
That's correct. Earlier today, I, at the court window, filed a motion to quash the arrest warrant and a request for a Frank's hearing. I have a signed copy to tender to the prosecutor, and we will be asking for a hearing date on that motion.
Okay, do you want two separate dates? I mean, how fast do you want? Well, first of all, I mean, the people have to answer. So
Sure.
I guess how fast do you want this?
This
And what I'm indicating here is, Michael says, I can set the motion along with the PCC, hear it all at that time. Or I can give you a date for this separate and apart from the PCC.
I would like a date separate and apart. This motion is not determinative of those records. It is prior to those records. So a date to hear this motion prior to receiving those records would be our request.
Right, but I mean, presumably, actually, you're then talking about 3 hearings because there's going to have to be a hearing on the motion to determine whether or not you'd be entitled to a hearing, an evidentiary hearing. Then, if necessary, I'd have to set the evidentiary hearing. And then we would also have the PCC.
That is accurate. So a suggestion may be to, whatever the court desires.
You don't want that. No. Okay, that's fine.
This is a lot. So in the expedience, we'll leave it to the court's discretion as to how you want to set
For
things.
that part of it, but we'll try to get through it as quickly and as expeditiously as possible. But the people have seen the motion. How long are you going to need to respond to the motion for the first part of it?
So although I was aware that a motion was filed this morning, I was not served with a copy until moments ago. I have obtained a copy through the court file prior to being heard right this moment and have had an opportunity to begin to flip through it. I have not consumed it in its entirety.
Right.
How long to respond was the court's question?
Yes. For the first part of a determination as to whether or not there would even need to be an evidentiary hearing in this case.
Court's pleasure, but at least a week.
At least a week. And well, maybe I decided on an off day. If I give it 10 days. 10 days. And then just go through everything.
So this guy, Sharon Moore, had everything at his disposal. Great job, head coach of Michigan. Then he thought with the wrong head, and he slept with his assistant, and it all went downhill. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's a very attractive assistant, but he had the world at his fingertips, and now he's still with his wife, I believe, but he's lost so much. I suspect he won't get all his money either because he broke the university law because you're not allowed to sleep with people below you or some rule like that, No offense, but has the state been dragged but that's you're a twat. Lol Barrow saw her here too. Art very attractive to boot. His assistant was very attractive, yeah.
Will that work?
Let me make sure.
Maybe longer than a week, February 2nd.
Thank you.
February 2nd, 2026. I will then set this for hearing on the motion. For February 9th, 2026, at 1 p.m.
Your Honor, may I speak up?
Yes, go ahead.
In the moment, I have a murder case set to start on that date. That may change, even within the end of the day today, that may get moved. But in the moment, that is day 1 of the murder trial.
That's day 1.
That's not a good date for me either, Judge.
16. Or you give me a date and let's see what we can figure out.
We could do Tuesday the 10th at 1 o'clock.
Well, Tuesday the 10th not going to work if the murder trial goes. So
Tuesday the 17th at 2 o'clock. should be fine.
That works for me.
At what time?
2 p.m.
All right. So the motion will be set for February 17, 2026. You said 2
Yes, sir.
at 2 p.m. Okay, and that will be an in-person hearing. We then, in understanding that, depending on the result of that motion, there may be another date that is set. But I'm not going to deal with that at this point because a determination has to be made. So I'll adjourn the probable cause conference. Normally, I'm not really going to care about the date itself, but with some of the logistics that come along with this case, I have to because of other docketing concerns. Will March 19th then work? I realize that's a little bit longer than what you asked for, but we're going to see each other on the 17th. And then I would adjourn this out to the 19th, hoping that all discovery, at least at that point, is clear.
That works for the defense.
Works for me as well. Thank you.
All right. So probable cause conference will be adjourned to March 19th, 2026, 9 a.m. Whereas your invite indicates. Is there anything else, Ryan?
Nothing for me.
No, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bond will continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe this is his wife. I think this is his wife. Poor thing. But he has 3 children as well. Anyway, so that's the 17th. I did make notes. I made 2 notes. So Sharon Moore, the next hearing, which would be a very short one again, I imagine, 17th of February, 2 p.m. And then probable cause hearing will be on March 19th at 9 a.m. Now, what I've learned about all these things are these things move all the time. So, whatever. Hello, Lou Syke. Hello, Lou. How are you, my darling? Nice to see you. I heard some describe the Welsh language and someone dropped a bunch of letters from the alphabet on the ground randomly. It was one of the hardest languages to learn. It is one of the hardest languages to learn. If you don't learn it as a child, it's quite hard language. Obviously, I've known it all my life. So, but yeah, it's a very hard language to learn because there's a lot of and all this, so yeah, no, people can do that. You can't roll your tongue always. Making notes, yes. So she is still annoyed. Still annoyed, yes. When's the trial for the teacher that got caught sleeping with a student? She's really pretty, if that helps explain it. There's a few of them these days, There's a few of them. But I don't actually know that one, if I'm being honest. I don't remember when. I think I know which one you're on about. Do you see Diana Nash is defending the guy accused? Yes. I covered it this morning. And so we probably look into it because Diana Nash is on it. But I think she's got a very, obviously, yeah, we'll see on that one. I saw that she had a hearing last week about it. I've not played it yet. We'll see. We might play it tomorrow. Depends what we do tomorrow. But yeah, I did see that, Lou. I did see that. Over there in Ohio. Ohio. Right. I think we'll end the stream there. It's about 2 hours and just over nearly 2 hours and 40 minutes. So we'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what we're going to do tomorrow yet. Might cover some cases, some hearings. I don't know. Maybe watch a trial. I have no idea. So turn up and, and we'll go through it. I need to get a better structure, so I'll think tonight about what I'm going to do. But we will be streaming tomorrow. I have every plans of streaming at about probably 9:30, and take it from there, really, see what we could get on with. Coming a bit late, sorry. Don't ever be sorry. You never need to be sorry for anything, my darling. It's good to see you. I hope you come back soon. And for the rest of you, thank you for being here. I know some of you nosy bitches are going to go to other streams. I hope you have a great day on there. And yeah, I shall see all you nosy bitches tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care. Love you all, or love most of you. Bye-bye.